All right, there we go. We're live and now we're recording. And now I need my notes because I never know what I'm supposed to say. Welcome, my friends. Welcome back to the Krieg Dominion. I'm Omar Krieg, your lord and commander of the Krieg Dominion, and your host for this, the 29th episode of Along the Frontier, an Alien RPG campaign. This episode is named Marine Country 4, Part 2, and I am joined by Rodance, Luke, and Kane, my fellow players on this wonderful excursion into the frontier, basically. Let's take a moment, check in with them, see how they're doing. It's been a couple weeks. We had a... God, I really wanted to say fatality for some stupid reason, but that's not the best way to lead off of the show. We had somebody out sick last week. I believe that was the only break we had. I don't think we were out. I think we were in the previous week. But it has been a couple weeks, so let's just see how things have been going for everybody, what's new and exciting. Meanwhile, I'll just be over here, utterly beaming with pride that my face huggers are now able to give back to the society by being emotional. Oh my god! Rodance. I got you again. That's all I can think of now. You know, I make these just to see if I can get anybody to start laughing out loud.
I'm pretty sure you got Luke to chuckle.
I saw that too, yeah.
Kane practices deadpan too well.
Yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me either.
See, we get the eyebrow response. Yeah, so let's see. I'm currently in the stage of my life where I'm counting down the days to the election, so I don't have to clean any more flyers out of my mailbox.
Oh, yes.
Oh, shit.
That's it.
I haven't even thought about the mailbox. I'm just tired of having to type stop every couple of hours.
I literally, every day I go in, I just pull out a dozen flyers. Next day, in, dozen flyers. I'm excited when I see junk mail trying to sell me a credit card. Okay? It's that bad. I live in North Carolina, which is why.
I don't remember, but is North Carolina, is that one of the big main important states? Yeah.
There's like 6 or 7 of them every year. They change slightly as the temperature of the state changes.
Yeah.
But North Carolina counts as one this year for some reason.
I joked about it, but it's like there was the other day, I think, something like Thursday or Friday or something like that, I had gotten throughout the course of the entire day like 3 individual text messages about somebody or other and about Michigan, which is weird because like I grew up in Michigan. I am, far as I know, by any sort of legal registration, I am a citizen of, or legal resident of Washington State. I have had a Washington State phone number since 2005, which at this point is like 19 years. Like, you would think that the people in Michigan would realize I have only been back to Michigan to visit in the last 2 decades. Leave me the fuck alone. Ooh, 321.
Just think about all of their, all those people buying all those phone numbers and email addresses off the deep internets and then calling people for political reasons.
Oh, wow. There's a whole new scam market right there. You know, we are recording this. Let's not give them any more ideas. I'm
horrifying you with even more thoughts and let you move on.
But yeah, like, just the fact, like, I have to look at this stupid text message, because my first thought is, of course, oh, it's a scammer. So let me look at it and block it. And I realized, no, this is a political message. Like, no, stop. Which, I'm not sure which one takes more time. I think blocking somebody actually takes a few more button pushes, but at any rate. You got anything else? I can't also, by the way, I also cannot wait for the political season to end, because I freaking hate it so much.
The cats are staring at me.
Do you owe them cheese?
I don't have cheese in my house, so if that's what they're waiting for, they're screwed.
Do they feel like you owe them something?
Nah, they harass me around midnight when it's time to feed them dinner.
Okay, yeah, no, that sounds about right.
I feed the cats at midnight, yes.
But I know you work second shift, so that doesn't seem terrible to me.
It's great. If you feed them before you go to bed, they don't harass you to wake you up in the morning.
You know, my cat doesn't actually harass me for food. He does kind of like...
How many times have you woken up with cat butt in your face or claws in inappropriate places?
I have woken up.
Mm.
So my cat will just sleep next to me until he's like, but the minute I sit up, he's like, "Oh, it must be food time because you're clearly awake now." And so now he'll get up and he's like starting to love on me and starting to walk off and comes back and he's like, "Come on, the food dish is this way." I'm like, "I know it is. I put it there every single day, twice a day."
Yeah, I feed mine once a day at midnight, and they get a slow feeder. So
Ah,
Mm.
Luke, how you feeling? What's new and exciting for you? Glad to see you made it back from the other side of the river Styx.
Yeah, well, I'm still wrestling with my voice. So it had actually been quite the hell trip. Um, Basically just tremors and weirdness. A fatality was almost there. I had to like I I I I strongly considered and eventually did reassign my beneficiaries in my life insurance.
When I was getting ready to say fatality, because that line has stuck with me since you said that, because I thought it was funny, like as a joke for like I feel so bad, this is what I did, right? That to me that sounds like a hilarious one-liner, right?
Oh yeah, it's a
But
great
but then
one-liner,
you
but
throw in the extra crispy of no, I actually did that shit. Now it's even more funny, but also in a darker way, which absolutely appeals to my sense of humor.
yeah.
Um,
So it was actually our elections also in New Brunswick.
ooh, I'm
We
sorry.
I know we've been living in 1984, which is about as long since we've had the same guy running our our province. This guy called Blaine Higgs is like the most corrupt dirtbag ever, and and he got voted out, and his words while walking out of the office was, "It is what it is."
can we borrow him? Because I'm pretty sure he's still not as corrupt as some of the people we have down here.
Oh, I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I don't know. I've seen some corrupt motherfuckers. Let me introduce you, Kwame Kilpatrick, the former mayor of the city of Detroit.
Ooh, but
There's literally a song that, hey,
I
if
think
you
that
want
was
to
his
smoke
name.
crack, you can just run it for mayor of DC for a reason.
Yeah,
yeah, well,
I
that
believe
was
that.
the mayor of Toronto for the longest time too. So I mean, you know, Doug Ford.
Yeah, we've definitely have had some winners over the course of human.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about politicians just being attracted to both, the power and the drugs and therein, but that's a thing that happens a lot.
I there's a joke about politicians that actually has a certain element of truth to it, which is why it sticks with me. But now for right now, like I cannot for the life of me remember what it is exactly. But basically, something like the oldest profession on earth is prostitution, but the second is politicians. And there may or may not have been something about a tax on prostitution in that joke
Yeah.
somewhere. But I definitely feel like, yeah, no, that's a fucking hitting the nail right on the damn head.
I think the best joke about politicians that I've ever heard was that your A+ students are your engineers, physicians and physics and science officers, right?
Yeah.
Your B students are your like management and like your all the like things that have to run from these people.
Mm-hmm.
And then your C students are your politicians who don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's yeah, yeah. You got anything else?
No, I'm just gonna survive here.
All right. Listen, if we get to a point where you need to wrap because you're like no biggie, right? Just let us
Oh,
know.
no,
We
no.
can wrap early if we need to. If you need to step out, because I know obviously you're still dealing with some of the after effects, and then it's fine. Like I'm glad. I was a little surprised when I got three thumbs up, and that yours was one of the first two. But
Yeah, no, I'm gonna survive.
okay.
It's not gonna be much of a big deal. It's really just surviving through the night and doing the things that I gotta do. I'm no longer sick. I'm just resulting from the like sad effects of it all.
Yep. Nope. I got you. I got you. But just wanted to make sure that that door is open. So if you need to take it, by all means.
Thank you.
Kane, my friend who I just recently started watching again in another show that I started to rewatch on, former Solaris Gladiator, and somehow that has snowballed into you being wanted in 77 different games or some ridiculous number like that. What's new and exciting for you, my friend, as you're batting away these game invites?
I'm trying to reduce my game schedule. Towards the end of Solaris Nights, it was sort of a laughing point in the group that I was in 7 games.
Yeah.
It was too much.
I can
I'm
see.
still trying. Some of those games have finally started to end, and I'm just not refilling those slots until a couple more close out. It gets so confusing. It's so
I can
time
imagine.
consuming.
Yeah. I mean, I sit here with, I have this game, the 40K game. GTL was running. I got to figure out something with that. I'm starting a couple of new shows. I'm working on another campaign that I want to start at some point, early to mid next year, on top of the one that rule set that I sent you. Yeah, people like you having multiple games a week, AP running multiple games a week. I'm just like, I wish I had the free time because clearly working a 40+ hour job and then also being a parent, like there's a lot of time that gets eaten up in those two big things right there. Um, but yeah, I'm jealous, but also there's a part of me that's like I'm glad I don't have to juggle all of that because it could definitely weigh you down in a
It gets
good way,
confusing.
perhaps. Yeah.
I have to take the reason why I take so many notes is because I have to make sure to use them to know I'm not remembering something from the wrong game.
Are you in? So I don't want to get into your schedule unless
So
you want to share it.
I have one on Tuesday. I have one on Wednesday. Thursday's been my traditional day off.
Wow, you have a
Friday
day
I'm
off
in
from gaming.
yeah. Friday I'm in a game. Saturday I'm in 2 games.
Oh, yeah.
Sunday I'm in a game. And my Monday game recently ended.
So,
So I
but
now
none of
have
those
2 days
systems
off a week.
are. But none of those systems are repeats in the same week. Am I right?
That's true.
So
It
there's
was
that.
worse when there were multiple games in the same system.
Because that's where I like for me personally. That's where I'm like I really need to make sure I'm not misremembering. This note goes to that game. That note goes to this game, and calling the
Well,
wrong character.
there's pros and cons though, right? Like character wise, it's easier to remember when it's a totally different setting and totally different rule set.
Right, right.
But then you have to remember the rules for 6 or 7 games all at the same time.
Yes. And you see why sometimes I'm like, Kane, how does this work again? Because, in a similar way, like I'm running multiple games, and a lot of game systems, generally speaking, the rule, as far as the intent, not so much the words, more or less are the same, right? In a lot of ways. But then there's times when it's just like, okay, that works in that game, that does not work in this game. This game does this. And you're like, fuck, that's right, okay. One thing I'm seeing a lot of too is like in this game you have slow actions and fast actions. In the Warhammer 40K series of game, well, just Warhammer in general, there's the full action and the half action. So fundamentally, those are very similar. But
No.
see the
They're
divider
very
there.
not.
See the divider.
No. The worst is when you're trying to survive in multiple games written in the 80s or 90s where they were addicted to adding rules.
Yeah, yeah.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
I have heard this before. All right. Well,
It's when you're too close to the wargaming roots of a lot of games. That's
yeah,
where a lot of them come from.
yeah. Kane, you got anything else? I know I kind of directed you in that, so if there's anything else you wanted to
I'm good
discuss,
with that.
okay.
That's a good topic. We can all make fun of me later.
I mean, we're gonna all make fun of each other at some point, regardless. I mean, something
I got
about
a head start.
something about my ex-wives was brought up not 10 minutes ago. So, all right. On that note, let's get started. The first thing I want, actually, no. Before I do that, do we have any talent roles or other updates we need to do for character sheets and stuff, or did we get everything added on that we needed?
I'm good.
Pull up the compendium just in case I need to start looking for stuff. Luke, Rodance, are you guys good with your characters? Do we need to add anything?
Oh yeah, did I tell you I now have light sleeper?
I recall, actually, I'm pretty sure I put that on your character on
Yeah.
Wescott, right?
Mm-hmm. It effectively is sleeping every other day rather than every day before you make checks for not being up too long.
Yeah, yeah. You've got light sleeper on yours.
Um. Well, there's the sister traits, one for food and one for air. Like there's one for air and then there's one for food and or something like that where you reduce the amount that you check against for supply. But
Air,
I
food,
think
water, sleep. They all have one.
yeah.
Do we need to add those talents on
I'm
there?
debating if I actually am not sure if I want to go down that or if I want to buy more into close combat. I'm already up to 5 ranks in it.
You know, Pike occasionally puts another rank in.
I bet he does too.
And I'm putting 6 in it.
Pike has 9 ranks in close combat right now.
Jesus Christ. All right. Is there Luke? Do you got anything I need to add to any of your characters? Are you good with yours? Okay.
Oh,
And then
actually, yes. Can
go
I
ahead.
have a second unarmed attack on my sheet? I want to have one for attack and one for block because I don't use the same stats.
How does that work? Like as far as Foundry's concerned.
You can just put another unarmed
Yeah,
attack
just drag
on
one
there.
from somebody else's sheet because I just renamed the one that was on there. I can't drag it from someone else's, so.
It's in inventory, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm looking for the actual, like a specific unarmed
It looks
attack.
like it's named as a weapon. You should probably see one on Pike's sheet.
Yep. In my active category, all I have is my clothing and my hands.
Let's see. Battle dress, M38 or M3B, unarmed attack, and there is yours. Okay, I just dragged one
Yes.
over.
Cool. I just I need one because I now have a skill that changes how my block works, so it's easier if I just have a second button, so I don't have to remember on the fly.
Gotcha. Last call. Anything else?
Can I roll for past the limit?
Sure. What is past the limit?
Past the limit's a colonial marine talent, which is when the going gets tough, the tough get going. You're the toughest person around. You can push any skill-based roll on strength twice, not just once like other characters, but each push increases your strength by 1.
So you could end up bumping your stress by 2.
Yes, but I could
Just-
also like really pass a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Make your. I imagine. Oh, it's just a wits roll, isn't it?
Yep. Wits no
Yes.
stress.
Go ahead and make that roll.
It's no stress.
Let's see if you get this. And this will go on Warren
Warren, yeah.
if you pass this roll, of course. You do pass the roll. So you get past the limit. Make sure you knock out that 5 points of experience points for it. Anybody else? Last call. Okay. I forget exactly where we left off last episode, but I believe I need Wescott to make her daily how well do I interact with others roll.
Oh, do I get my health back, by the way?
I'm trying to remember where exactly we left off. I
Sparring.
believe, like, I remember something to the effect of that my intent was when we started, we'd be going right into the quote-unquote head shrinker. But that does require your roll, which I believe means you should reset all your stress and health.
No, I don't reset my stress unless I pass.
Well, yeah,
the
correct.
same day.
Yeah,
I believe it would be the next day. Like, you guys finished up
before seeing the
yeah,
show.
like you would be going to bed, and then you wake up, and then you take an early morning flight down to the planet to start your liberty. But the first thing you have to do once you get there is you have to check in with the head shrinker.
Then our stress is going to be cleared out and our health will be restored.
Right. That looks like a success.
let me roll it the other way.
Oh, without the...
Actually, you know what? It doesn't matter. If it's a success, I could just count the black die. I don't have to count the yellow.
Yeah,
Yay!
yeah.
I can neutral out my stress.
Yep. And you don't have to
Crazy
be.
today.
Yeah, you're all there today, which is good because today you're gonna go see the head shrinker. Before we do that, though, we have something of a credits, like a cold open. We've got a black screen. Let me find my notes really quick. Make sure I'm not screwing this up terribly. Intros. So, as we transition from, our rolling credits and all that stuff, or maybe before the credits roll, we start with a black screen. And we hear single notes in a very soft, slow, slightly sad melody being played on a violin. For copyright reasons, it cannot be the Godfather theme. But the notes are very similar, the rhythm is very similar. Some of the melody matches, some of the melody doesn't, because, again, copyright reasons, it has to be a, completely separate intellectual property. After a few bars, there's an electric guitar subtly coming in, playing accentuating notes to further enforce the main line of music. And we hear, they thought they got us. They were wrong. It's the voice of an older man with a bit of an Italian accent. I can't do an Italian accent without sounding either offensive or stupid or both, so I'm just not going. But the music continues. We see a scene kind of fade in, a family around a dinner table. Oh, an old man, old woman, a couple of older, adult children, 20s, 30s, 40s. Maybe some small kids running around. They thought they could take us down. And there's another scene in the kitchen. The big metal steel pots just full of tomato sauce. Cooking on what seems to be the size of a stove that one would expect in a restaurant, not in somebody's kitchen. Somebody is chopping garlic on a cutting board nearby. It's a silent shot with the guitar and the violin playing. But it's clearly two adult men, 30s and 40s, talking about something. One is slightly more animated than the other. Dinner is eventually served. Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing. Dinner is served, and the screen goes black. There's an explosion. Again, there's no sound. We see the explosion. We see the dining table explode as though somebody had placed a bomb under the table. We see people running in a panic. We see police and fire and ambulances. We see not so much a chase sequence, but we see the traffic along the highway as the emergency vehicles with their lights flashing are racing down the road. They were wrong. And then we see in what looks like a warehouse. And again, nothing is being, you can't hear anything from these clips, from these shots. It's just the guitar, just the violin, and occasionally the narrator. And it's a couple of men in a warehouse. One of them is very angry and animated, pointing, jabbing fingers at the other person, an older man. And all you hear is, in due time, my friend, in due time. And then it fades out as the final image is of a pair of speedboats on what looks like either a large lake or maybe a small sea or ocean, but it's very clear that these two speedboats are just laden with men wearing all black, hoods, masks, small assault weapons, like Uzis and things like that, submachine guns. It's dark, but there's it's almost this picturesque scene or shot of these two speedboats loaded with men with guns with a big fat moon popping up over the horizon, which, as we all know, in a tactical world makes no sense, but here we are. It's a movie, right? Not only were they wrong, we were going to prove a point. And it cuts out from there as these boats pull up onto the shore. The last shot fades out. Big words coming into view. The Neighborhood Dad, Volume 3, La Cosa Nostra. Tonight, 8 p.m. And then our scene transitions from that, La Cosa Nostra 3 on the screen, transitions from that to this, God, I can't help it. Because of the Italian theme, I keep wanting to go back now at this point, because you're about to see a shrinker, right? The Sopranos and what was his? I know his last name was Soprano. Tony Soprano's psychiatrist in her office. I see you guys being in a similar scene, right? And you're you are seated with this doctor. You've been you've been checked in, you've been brought in, and before you is this doctor who has identified herself as Holly Jalil. She is a civilian psychologist, whatever. I don't know which. I know there's a difference. I don't know which one exactly you guys will be working with, but regardless, she is a civilian contractor, and she's explained to you guys that she is retained by the Colonial Marines and by General Vaughn herself specifically with the express intent and purpose of assisting with determining the mission readiness of various troops, especially after harrowing missions and traumatic events. And so, Dr. Jalil is probably in her, I don't know, mid to late 30s, slender, dark hair, kind of a dark skin tone. It would make you think of maybe Middle Eastern or South Asian, I don't know, like Indian or Arabic descent or something of that nature. And she says, please, come in, have a seat.
This is an official appointment as far as Pike is concerned.
Yes.
So he has made sure that all three of us have shown up in ironed uniforms.
Of course. Of course. Get that front crease just popping.
I want to be able to cut paper with the edge of my
Goddamn
sleeve.
right. You better cut some paper.
I really hope it doesn't rain.
Yeah, because then you got to restarch everything.
That's fucking starch stink.
Yeah. Oh my god, what was the name of that brand that everybody used in the military? Niagara? That can't be right.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about? Big white can, usually a blue or yellow lid.
Oh, see, I was the airboy, so I paid someone to starch my uniforms.
Oh, listen, I've done both.
So I've never done it myself. I had no intention of getting that mess anywhere in my own place.
My God.
Yeah, so she says...
I've got a funny starch story at some point when it's appropriate.
It almost seems like now, but I don't want to get distracted. I already spent far too long with talking about La Cosa Nostra.
I'll inconveniently interrupt the game at a later time.
I'm sure. But yeah, so Dr. Jalil says, please come in, have a seat. There are, she points to one side where there's a pitcher of coffee and a pitcher of ice water and some cups, and there's a box of what appears to be some sort of donut or pastry sort of thing. Plenty of napkins. There's strategically placed around the chairs in front of her particular chair are boxes of Kleenex, a couple of trash cans, and she just sits there and she has a notepad, like a legal notepad of paper, and she points to the empty seats in front of her and says, please, have a seat. Why don't you... Obviously, I know who you are, and you know who I am, but let's get to know each other a little bit. Staff Sergeant Pike, Heath, welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And this should be very clear if you haven't figured it out. This is the ice breaking and welcoming and getting you to relax, as opposed to this being, any sort of military official place that she's attempting to do.
I was told that you were read in on all the programs I've been involved in, so I'm sure you've already read my psych profile.
There's reading one's psych profile, and then there's conversing with that person. And I think we're going to be here for a little while, so maybe getting to know you on a more personal level would be helpful in making my final determination.
If you have any questions, I can certainly answer them for you.
My intent isn't to drill you with questions, it's to hear what you have to say. And based on what I hear and what I think, I will be making a report to General Vaughn.
I wasn't expecting an interrogation. I figured the questions would be polite and well-meaning.
And she kind of has a smirk, and you could tell this, like, she's obviously got a sense of humor of her own. But she's like, no, if this was an interrogation, there'd probably be strapped in some various types of medication available.
I figured the questions might be similar, but they'd be given in a much more polite and well-meaning way. I'm certainly not going to try to hide any information. I just don't know what's relevant or you care to know.
She's scribbling a little bit on her legal pad.
Pike's not bothered by this.
No, I'm sure he's not.
We have been well trained by Colonel Arnold to ignore scribbling.
Yeah, this what probably.
Do you actually say that?
He does it.
Does
all
Wescott
the
say
time.
that?
No, but she has that look on her face like she's seen this before.
Sergeant Wescott, did you have something you wanted to add?
So you want us to introduce ourselves, yes?
Yes. I mean, obviously you have name tags on your uniforms, and I've already read your personal dossiers, but, again, reading versus conversing.
Yeah. Well, I am Sergeant Octavia Wescott. I have been serving in the Marines, and then I give the appropriate date because I don't remember what it would be.
Yeah, a few years probably.
Yeah. I'm from a station in near Earth orbit. She kind of just shrugs, goes, I guess we could discuss, like, what postings I've had, but I have a feeling that's not quite what you're asking for.
It may or may not come up, but it is not yet part of my scope. Mm-hmm. And God, God, why can't I not? Warren, Lance Corporal, okay. And Lance Corporal Matthew Warren. That must be you. You are the final to say anything, so process of elimination being what. And when she says that, it's clear she's trying to make light of it. She's not trying to grill you or anything. But, she definitely hits you with the process of elimination. You must be
Lance Corporal, or Lieutenant Corporal, or Lance
Corporal.
Lance
Because
Corporal,
Lieutenant Corporal
Matthew
sounds
Warren.
ridiculous in my head, but that's because I have the military background.
I'm a Canadian.
No worries, man. Listen, I'm not trying to throw you out there. I'm just saying, if it's someone who's been in the military, it's like, wow, that sounds weird.
All right, so Lance Corporal Matthew Warren.
You don't need to. I've never served outside of my contractual commitments here.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure how formal any of this was going to be.
I am Dr. Holly Jaleel, not lieutenant or captain or corporal or whatever. I understand mostly the Marine Corps rank system. Seems pretty straightforward. But to give you an idea of what I am about, I have been a practicing mental health coordinator for General Vaughn for the last couple of years. I have served here on Tithonus for the entirety of that time, outside of any times I've needed to go somewhere else to assist the general in her manning decisions. And in my time, I've heard quite a few stories of quite a few horrible, terrible, absolutely abysmal situations, and I've had to recommend to the general courses of action that have unfortunately included removal of service members from the service. To, of course, as typically is the case, reinstatement and some cases medication and or other forms of treatment. That is strictly my purpose here today, is to discuss with you the events of your previous mission, determine based on what you tell me whether or not the general should be concerned and to what degree that concern should be. The more honest and open and forthright you are, the easier this process will be. But I'm not going to interrogate you. And she looks directly at Pike when she says that. I'm not here to interrogate you. Your mission profile reports have been completed to whatever standards were required. I have been given a summary document. Obviously, that summary document is not going to have everything. But that was more to prepare me for what I may encounter here with you. I will need you to fill in the gaps, whatever those gaps may be. Let's start. Does anybody want to get any coffee or anything? I do have coffee. There's water, donuts, if you guys want anything else. Obviously, within reason. Again, she's looking at Pike. I think she's already sized you up as the hearty drinker. Within reasons, you are on duty. We are limited on some options, but I can send out for additional food or drinks.
I get up and I go make some coffee for everyone. I especially add extra sugar to Warren's. Dude, we know
those
you're
high
having...
triglycerides.
we know you're okay. So she might just give you the version of double brewed Navy coffee instead. If you're gonna, gotta make sure he isn't gonna have the jitters in the middle of a discussion with the lady.
Okay, so Wescott knows then, definitely.
But she may have figured out things.
Well,
Okay,
if you're
okay.
sitting there pounding down coffee or pounding back cigarettes, it's very obvious that's what you're doing. That's something that's not illegal. So you'd be allowed to do it in front of others. You wouldn't be hiding it like if you had a drinking habit.
I mean, it's also future space 80s, so you can probably smoke in her office too.
Yes. Yeah. I should have mentioned.
You can ask her for an ashtray.
In fact, yeah, no, she'll be like, if you want to smoke.
There's probably some already on the table.
Yeah. She actually gets up and she goes and turns on a ventilation system that is clearly intended to help expunge the odors and the smoke of cigarette smoke. And then she goes and pulls out a couple of glass ashtrays from a cabinet and sets one between, basically one in between each of the three of you's seats. So like one between Pike and Warren, one between Warren and Wescott.
Are those brown ones?
They're the old brown restaurant glass ones.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, I bet
She
you
probably
do.
smokes a little of her own cigarette sitting there because
Yeah,
everybody did at some point.
Yeah, you could probably look around and notice that, like, in the pocket of, you know how they have the office chairs there, and there's like that pocket on the side. Yeah. She's got not just a couple of magazines, but you notice that there's like a couple of packs of like 100 millimeter long cigarettes. The old granny cigarettes. Like 100 millimeter Virginia Slims or something. Not to throw any brand names out there in particular, but yeah.
So, what would you prefer I call you?
Just Dr. Jaleel.
Okay, Dr. Jaleel. You got a summary of the after action, but you're missing details.
Well, yeah, I mean, the details aren't important necessarily to me, as insofar, let me rephrase that. The details themselves are not terribly important to me, but what is the impact on you. Stitch! Hang on one second, guys. My cat is climbing on top of the roof.
Is that in game?
Yeah, so I'm really glad. My cats don't jump very well, so they can't even clear the counter, let alone the fridge.
Alright, apologies. My cat is bored.
Yes.
Which doesn't take much for a cat to be.
You know,
Um,
you can
Uh,
solve that with $5 and a quick bot search of cat toys on Amazon, right?
I have a cat toy, but he likes to play, but that takes me away from the computer, and I don't feel like doing that right now.
So I think Pike thinks about that for a second and then says, "Well, we haven't had a review for the other missions since they have onboarded with me. And the only difference is we lost Marines, but I don't understand why that's relevant."
And I completely understand where you're coming from, because in previous missions, you have lost Marines, Staff Sergeant Pike. The difference in this mission was the specific nature, the objectives of this mission.
The whole satellite.
If this was not
induced
alien, I would say
insanity.
things like the warp fuckery.
Yeah. The the signals, um, ability to turn aggression.
Yes. Let's start with that mission briefing. Damn it. Hold on. This fucking
all right, everyone.
They quite
Coordinate.
literally do it for
Are you
attention.
done? I'm trying to do something.
What you do is you pick it up, take it with you, and pet it for a while.
Of course, he likes to get up on top of the refrigerator where those two cabinets that there's nothing in, but he doesn't know that, so of course he wants to go in there.
It sounds like a good place to put a cat bed, frankly.
I mean, actually, it's not a half bad idea. Just leave it open for him. Just be like, fuck it, you win. Take it. It's yours now. Keep it clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she says, let's start with your mission briefing. What was expected and what was known? What was your initial mission briefing? And she's looking at the three of you. She's not expecting just Pike to answer that.
We're supposed to terminate the signal, try to do so in a way that preserves the technology for study, seize and maintain control of the station until relieved.
Okay, there's the clear-cut military briefing. And then she
Yeah,
looks at the other two of you and she says, in layman's terms, how would you describe that briefing? Or more accurately, your objectives and what was known?
Go turn off the mind control machine.
When you say mind control, she points directly at you in the Bing kind of way. But
I do the slow blink, duh, look face.
Yeah. Yes. And then she looks at Warren. Warren, I think you wanted to say something for a second there. Am I wrong?
Well, it was like a regular mission at first, and then it turned out to be a 10-yard from the touchdown line for the last half of it.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. For like half a second, I thought you were trying to either, but I couldn't tell if it was intentional or not.
I was
Trying to
chewing through
combine
it.
two different sports games
Oh yeah,
into this amazing
be like
analogy.
Sports ball.
Sports ball.
No. It's Spaceball.
Spaceball. There you
Yeah.
go. Don't throw that S in there though, because that's actually copyrighted or something.
it's a mixture of football and badminton.
Yeah, there you go.
Like-
Fuck it. Yeah, football and badminton makes perfect sense.
Actually, that
So-
sounds kind of fun now.
Yeah. So your mission was to go to this station, stop it from transmitting what appeared to be some sort of mind control device, which sounds absolutely ridiculous if I hadn't already read my summary briefing.
It wasn't ideal.
No. And then on top of that, you were instructed to recover parts, the technical information for study. Ostensibly, I would imagine, to keep it from being used again or how to neutralize it if it popped up anywhere else. Blast ball, Hashin says. Although I've heard that term somewhere else now that I think about it.
Yeah, it starts with that number.
Is that what it is? Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Right up there with speedboat racing betting. So, what Before going on to the station, what can you tell me were your individual concerns and or expectations? Did this seem on the up and up? Did this seem normal? Something, the type of mission that you had done previously? Was there anything
True
out of the
mission.
ordinary for you?
Yeah.
It seemed like a pretty normal progression as to how weird our missions have been.
When you say weird, she kind of looks at you and she doesn't have like I want you to understand like she's trying to keep a straight face in order to elicit you to talk more, right? But when you say yeah, whatever exactly it was you said, that your missions were getting more and more weird. Because I've already forgot what you just said 5 seconds ago.
The progression of
The
how weird
progression,
things have
yeah.
been
She
going.
gives you a look of like, no, please, I want to know more about that. Because she feels like there's more to the story that even she doesn't know.
Hmm.
I mean, it doesn't really matter whether things are weird, normal, expected, or unexpected. It's a mission. We're expected to complete it. And the why, the risks, those are something somebody else decides. If you get caught up in all the extra details beyond what you're doing, you forget to do what you're doing.
A common viewpoint amongst many in the military. Would you agree with that, Staff Sergeant Pike?
It's one I was raised on. It's one I encourage in others.
But it completely removes the human part of that entire equation.
Being a Marine is not a study in a humanities course.
No, I wouldn't say that either, although it could make for an interesting white paper. What I mean is, in your mind, here's the mission, nothing else matters, do the job. An admirable trait in when you're under fire. Yes?
Necessary.
Yes, exactly. A survival mechanism. Unfortunately, that viewpoint applied over a longer term of duration removes the human element completely. You become desensitized to these more and more oddball missions. And while on some levels that may be helpful or even recommended, on other levels they are destructive and detrimental. And when she says that, she looks at Wescott. Not quite eye to eye.
Can I comment?
Absolutely, please.
I don't think it's about desensitization or disassociation more than a newfound level of readiness to be able to serve our country.
Sure. One would expect that, yes, but I feel what is being lost is the capacity or the compassion for the human element and the damage the human element may endure in order to complete the mission. Agreeably, the mission is important. I think we can all easily say that that is indeed the case, but there comes a cost if we don't address the human side of this equation, which is why we're here today.
The human side isn't ignored.
But you made it sound, and I don't mean to sound argumentative, Staff Sergeant, merely pointing out my observation was that it seemed like you want to excise that human part so that is not a problem in order to complete the mission.
I just didn't think that any of those extra questions were part of the human concern. That's part of the command concern.
Would
I
the,
volunteered to be with regular Marines, not because I don't care about them. I
is
would like
that
for them to
common
live.
amongst? I really hope you don't take offense to this. Your kind?
No,
I saw that,
that's
Luke.
it's not common for us to care about your kind.
Okay.
But I've when we dissolved our units when the program ended, I volunteered to work with regular Marines. I I still believe that it is an important part of every mission. It's not the function of the mission, and it has to be given up at times to try to bring as many people home as I can. It's my
Oh,
job as a
absolutely.
leader.
Absolutely. There is a certain time and place where the human element has to be taken out. The compassion or the feelings, when it all is truly in that moment, the mission and nothing else. Absolutely.
That to me is the human element.
The mission is.
Not any of that other stuff. Bringing people back, teaching them, preparing them, giving them their best chance to do well or die well. That is the human element.
I see. There is a moment, 10 or 20 seconds of scribbling. Not furiously, but definitely a number of thoughts that she needs to get put down before continuing. And then she takes a second or two, scribbles another quick note, and then she says, okay, so going into this mission, it did not seem out of the ordinary for the level of what you had previously encountered. Would that be a fair statement for the three of you? If, as she looks like she has to refer to some other notes really quick, if Lance Corporal Watts and Corporal Winston were still here today, would they agree with that, do you think?
Yes, ma'am.
I think she hears your yes, ma'am, as she looks directly at you and she's like, did I strike a nerve? I didn't mean to. I meant to simply identify them clearly. I didn't want to leave them in the nebulous, your former teammates category, if that makes any sense. Yes, Warren.
I think Wescott would have been the best qualified to understand what their thoughts were as our previous team leader before getting on the mission with Pike. I think she's best qualified to understand how they would have reacted in these situations.
Okay. Were you not close with Winston or Watts?
I was, and as far as Winston was concerned, he was part of the team, very on board. And up into his last moments, I don't know what his thoughts were, but I know it was a tragic loss.
Indeed. Indeed.
I think,
Anytime.
I think
Please, go ahead.
Winston was the first to adjust to this unusual mission set out of the four of them. And I think it helped the others get on board.
Indeed. I can see that. When you have a group such as the two of you, your two former partners, and coming from your way of doing things and then joining Staff Sergeant Pike and doing things the way he does things, the first, as they sometimes still say, the first one to leave usually causes everybody else to leave. In this case, it's the reverse. Winston was the first to, as you say, come along or get on board. It makes it easier for others and more of them to suddenly become on board. I hope I'm making sense. I feel like I may be stumbling with my words a little bit here. But let's talk about your approach to the station. The way I understand it, this was kind of a stealth insertion. I have no idea exactly what you have to do, but I would certainly imagine if I was to sneak into this facility with other members of a team and not being able to communicate with them, not knowing what was happening with them, not in sight of them, and at the same time attempting to evade capture, I can imagine that would be a very stressful time, and that is the closest approximation I can get to whatever it might have been that you guys experienced on your insertion to the station. But please, don't let me assume. Tell me what that was like.
This is not the first mission where we've been tasked to different areas of a mission location.
Okay. So the team was split on its approach? Is that what I'm hearing?
Me and Watts and I believe Winston, Wescott, and Pike on the other side.
Okay. My summary did mention, of course, that the team had used multiple insertion points, but it's fucking cat.
Seriously, just go pick the poor thing up and pet it a couple times.
He wants to play. The problem is, as silly as this may seem, is my son has closed his door. And normally at this point in the evening, he would be chilling in my son's room with him. But my son has been, or the cat has irritated my son. So he's like, no, I don't want you in here. So he closed the door. Well, cats don't like closed doors, we all know. And so now he's bored, and I'm not paying attention to him. So he's trying to do shit to get attention.
Yeah. Seriously, just pick it up, drop it on the desk, pet it on the desk.
I wish he would just, like, this is the way my mind works. If you want my attention, come up and slap me and get my attention, right? The cat just refuses to do anything like that. He will go into the other side of the apartment and be like, come get me. And that's how he will get my attention.
Yeah, you're reinforcing the wrong action.
Yeah.
You're playing with him by getting up irritated and playing with him. You should bring him with you next time. And just consistently reinforce the action you want.
It's
just so we're clear, cats are as trainable as dogs.
Yeah,
they just don't have the same body language that humans can read well.
Here. Apparently self-grooming all of a sudden is a sign of embarrassment, too.
He licking his ass at you?
Well, he just licked his paw at me.
Yep.
Well,
you know the level of ass leg height is generally a good indicator of how irritated they are with you.
Yeah. Well, he's now in that cupboard, so eventually he'll pop back out. At any rate, you and your team split. One group went to the main docking port. The other went to the auxiliary port, as my summary sheet informed me. What happened upon arrival and insertion? I imagine, from what I have read, that there was a very different set of experiences. So, as best you can, what happened? Pike, Wescott, you guys were together at the main port. You had a significantly easier time, from my understanding.
To a point.
Warren, you and Watts were at the auxiliary port.
Yes.
And had a significantly more difficult time.
Life
and death, from my understanding.
Probably a good 2-3 minutes of 15 bodies on the ground, maybe.
Scary?
Maybe 10.
Frightening? Terrifying?
A bit of all of them, but honestly, something manageable on my side. Apparently not so manageable on Watts' side.
What makes you say that?
I heard he was decommissioned after the stressful environment.
Do you know, or are you aware of what happened to him during that time? I imagine your cone of attention was pretty narrow on what was directly in front of you, so...
At some point, we were separated. I was stuck in an airlock, which proved advantageous to the follow-up to this siege of a particular station. I had no idea where Watts was until Pike and Wescott had come down to look for him and us and me. During that time, there was another ship that had crashed in to try to take the station away from us, and I was able to hold the line on that auxiliary.
That was an amazing moment. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm sorry. I had to bring that back.
So he says that, right, in that serious tone, and then Pike on the other side goes, like a badass.
I gotta figure out how Jaleel would respond to that.
So who did we make sit in the middle of us anyways? I'm curious.
I
yeah.
feel like
I thought Warren was sitting in the middle.
I kind of
Yeah.
assumed, yeah. I kind of assumed. I didn't assign seats or anything.
It
He's
feels
kind of being
very.
babysat.
It feels very. Bring your parents to the principal's office. The one parent on either side of Warren.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, when you say like a badass, Jaleel just kind of looks at you and she's like, her face might be a little difficult to read, especially for Pike, who doesn't always pick up on, some of the subtler moments of nonverbal communication. But she definitely, to the other two of you, you probably read, "That's not helpful right now, fucker," on her face. And then she looks back to Warren and she says, "You did you feel abandonment in that moment? It sounds like completely reasonable if you had."
Not abandonment, separation. But
Really want to
I
say
knew that
separation anxiety right there. I'm sorry. Please continue.
separation from the group, obviously very stressful moments, but we were trained for this kind of moment. So I knew if at all the top team had been successful, which from what I heard from the radio was they were coming down to join us and it was going to be managed.
You endured, as it turns out. Your partner Watts, on the other hand, did not. An unfortunate loss, but one that I have seen happen a number of times. In some cases, unavoidably. In some cases, preventative measures could have been used. Hindsight is 2020. The point here, I think, Warren, is how do you feel about your team, and how do you feel about your place in that team now?
I think it's a great team and I want to strive to be worth it for it.
Okay.
Want to be strive for to be worth for them.
Would you or could you say in those moments of solitary defiance against overwhelming odds, did you feel, and you could tell she's trying to figure out how best to phrase this because she doesn't want to give you a leading question, but she's also trying to ask a very specific question. So she's not, not necessarily trying to trick you, but trying to get the words just right. And she says, in that moment of despair, you and only you against so many, an unknown number, what would you consider that to be amongst your lowest points?
When you say lowest points, as in the most difficult points,
In any way you wish to interpret it.
I think it was a moment where I had to either put up or not. And I checked my emotion tracker. There were 6 or 7 people showing up on the dock. It was either somehow work it or not, and there wasn't an option to not.
Do you feel that in that moment that you had to make, let me rephrase that. Did you feel as though in that moment that you did or did not make a conscious choice, or was this a fight or flight, almost an automated response sort of thing?
There had to be some sort of conscious choice to make whenever you're making a tactical decision, I suppose.
Yeah, I would
But
imagine.
it was a whole moment. I'd have to agree with you.
Was there ever a moment where you thought things might go differently?
In combat, you always assume that it might go differently.
Indeed, I would imagine. Let's talk about the other team. You started at the top of the station. You entered the station through the main port. You managed to secure a number of, supposed prisoners, detainees.
I just want to state that I'm really happy
Yes.
I don't have to roleplay Winston in this particular situation because
This
it would have been
motherfucker
so
shot me
much
in the
bullshit.
face.
So
Okay,
much bullshit.
my role playing
So
of this
many
is going to
bullshit
be
rolls.
interesting. Dude shot me still, remember?
Yeah,
Yeah, he did.
yeah.
Yeah, like every other statement from Winston involves a manipulation roll.
Every single other one, like 50% at least.
You made it to the control room. It was my understanding that there was computers that needed to be turned on and off, code that needed to be entered, something along those lines, in order to shut off the signal's transmission. And she looks at Wescott and she says, "Talk me through that moment, or that series of moments. What was going through your mind? What kind of difficulty were you up against? Your obstacles, your challenges?"
Well, we had breached and entered the level. We collected a number of prisoners. We were clearing the rooms. Once we had some fairly secure position, I was directed to go into the command center and shut off the signal. So I walk in, I hang my sidearm off of its sling, sit down, start typing at the console to start shutting down the system. And then I look up and I am standing in the middle of a dark forest. And I can
Jaleel
hear
takes a moment to consider how she wants to respond. And she says, "What was in this forest?"
it was just all dark and misty and like a new moon night with just almost impossible to see. And I could hear people calling for me. And I just felt an urge that I had to get to them. There was no dissonance between sitting at a computer and then suddenly being in the woods. It just worked. It didn't seem odd at the time. Even now, like intellectually, I know it's wrong. It shouldn't flow that way, but emotionally, it just fits. And I'm just looking for someone calling for me. And then I'm suddenly standing there with Winston pulling on the back of my kit.
Have you ever experienced such sensations or momentary lapses in loss of time or memories of this sort ever before?
No, all I could assume was I was hit with the same signal that was reported as coming from this place that was impacting others. We were briefed at what the signal did beforehand, and I just assumed that I got caught up in it for a moment. I didn't spend any time thinking about it. We just moved on with the mission.
From what I understand, your mission was, of course, was that some sort of subliminal messaging was being released through the network that was causing people to experience moments of psychosis or homicidal rage or various other mental failures, we'll say. And it does indeed sound, I'm not an expert, of course, but it does indeed sound like that's exactly what happened. To you, the way you feel is that one memory bleeds into the next and back to reality.
Yeah, it was like I had hopped onto the shuttle back to the ship, except that I just didn't remember the shuttle.
Nice.
It was almost kind of like that moment, or like I had slept through the shuttle trip. Almost like it wasn't jarring or anything. It just flowed from one place into the next. The only jarring part was suddenly being yanked on from the back of my vest by Winston.
And Staff Sergeant Pike, you were there in, not necessarily in the command or the control room, but you were on that same deck when this happened. What was your experience and what was your memory of it?
Winston said that Wescott was being aberrant. I told him to seize her, and I started shouting orders in order to get her back on discipline to see if we could break her out of it.
And presumably it had by this point, yes?
Yes, it did at some point.
So, at some point after this moment, something happened that led you to the next level of the station.
The important thing in that moment to understand is we knew one of the risks going into this, and the reason why I split the team and I tried to force us to get to both points of control as quickly as possible to limit time in the signal, was a loss of agency and control was a significant risk for all of us. I know I've been trained to accept a loss of control when there truly is no control, and to seize control when it's available. So I tried to provide that to Wescott, to give her something to make choices on to return control and agency. That's why I went with orders. It's something she's accustomed to.
An interesting approach, and one that clearly worked, it seems. I mean, here's Wescott now, for all intents and purposes, as best as we can tell, back to her normal self as she was prior to the mission.
It worked more than once. The
Yes.
benefit of the mission.
Yes, and we'll get to that in just a second. There was something that caused you guys to go to the second level of the station. Could you... And she's looking at the two of you, Mom and Dad. Sorry,
I just defer to Pike because he was talking. He would know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, out of character, Jaleel would not know that outside of it being in the report.
My character just looks at Pike a little bit and then looks back at her.
What was the catalyst for going down a flight of stairs?
Well, security lockdown had begun. To my understanding, we completed our objective, which meant we needed to fold in on the other group to ensure mission success and to help them win their fight. Could have gotten locked in that lift, so we took the stairs to start our way down.
Now, the summary briefing I was given was that there was an alien life form being held, and it is believed that around this time it had been released or found its way out of its containment. Would you agree with that statement? I want to make clear, like, I'm not interrogating, I'm not attempting to debrief, I'm just trying to understand what happened on this mission in order to facilitate my recommendations to the general about your guys' mission readiness.
Given what I had to do, it got out of containment at some point. I don't know when. I certainly am not smart enough to be able to confirm that, but I can confirm it got out of containment at some point.
Okay. So what was it that precipitated you going down to the second level? You said you wanted to get down to the third level.
We needed to get to the third level so that we could finish the mission and fold back in on the other team that was actively engaged.
Now, out of character, you also had a secondary objective as to why you were going to the second level, just as a reminder. The android said something about the queen, or releasing the queen, or destroying the queen, or something along those lines.
So here's the thing, right? Like, Pike is being entirely candid with her about this.
Mm-hmm.
He was not being entirely candid with the android.
Sure. Okay. So basically, you were like, "Yeah, fuck you. We're not doing what you say. I'm trying to get my team and get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, it was in Pike's mind when the android is like, we gotta shoot it off into the sun or something. Pike was immediately like, that is a mission failure condition. So I'm just gonna nod along and go get other guns.
Yeah. Okay. No worries. So you, going back into character, obviously. Mm-hmm. At this point, you encountered this alien life form, and by the limited accounts that I have of this creature, terrifying is only one way to describe it, and there are many others, but they are all just as bad or worse.
I mean, yeah, it's fucking huge, very angry, and can fuck with your head.
Tell me about the fucking with your head. And she smirks a little bit when she says that, because clearly she's using your words.
Yeah, I'm not a scientist. I don't know the mechanisms of any of
Tell
this shit.
me what
But
you remember experiencing.
I remember seeing it through the window, firing, and then being in a forest, uh, attacking UPP commandos in a forest until Wescott gave me some control to be able to bring myself back. And then with my weapon dry, I pulled my knife and I fought that thing until one of us was going to die. And luckily for everybody, I killed it.
And then she looks over to Westcott, almost as if she knows the rest of the story. And she says, Staff Sergeant Pike was incapacitated. Or perhaps incapacitation is a grossly inaccurate statement. Have you
Mentally
told him?
incapacitated seems pretty descriptive to me.
Yeah. Have you? I imagine you've told him what happened. He knows what he did. And she's looking back and forth a little bit, but she's also like trying not to be the one that said you killed your teammate.
Well, he just says like
We
nonchalantly,
submitted
I
a
know.
report.
So you just nonchalantly, you're like, yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
just like, I know what I did.
Okay.
Like like Westcott was like rubbing her chest slightly as she says it. Like we covered this discussion in the report we submitted.
Okay.
She is still rubbing the spot where she got shot.
And Jaleel takes a moment and she's writing some more notes, and she does that thinking gesture where she's not aware of like that she's tapping
She's
her
chewing
pencil.
on her pen.
Well, she's tapping it against her chin, so she's thinking, and she's not even aware that she's doing it. And she says, "Is it? No, Westcott. How do you feel knowing that your team leader fired on your team medic, was, for the time, not himself, but it doesn't change as memories work. It doesn't change the fact that it was Pike that shot you and shot your teammate. How does that sit with you now?"
She definitely has a moment where she spends extra time looking at the table, and she says,
I think while you're thinking, Pike says, I know outside of this door I crawl up your ass all the time, but there's a covenant in this kind of office. It's not what I'm here to do. It's not what any of us are here to do. The nice woman asks you to speak your mind. This is the place that you can do it, and I can't crawl up your ass for it.
There's a little bit more scribbling on the notepad.
And then I'd go back to looking kind of down at the table and goes, we make decisions with the information we have at the time. I saw Pike swing at us, and he was there, and the fact that he shot us tells me pretty quick that he was also not present.
It's safe to say that this was not his normal behavior.
No.
I would agree with that, but I'm curious.
At this point, we were sucking vacuum. I had to patch my armor. And when I turned to look at Winston, he was already gone. His faceplate was destroyed. There was no helping. And then I turned back, and Pike is knife fighting whatever that thing was. It exploded into acid all over him, and I had to dive on him and patch his suit too. Otherwise, we would have just had more vacuum fatalities like we had already suffered.
A tough time, a harrowing time. I am still underselling. Based on what I've read and what you've told me, only imagine what that scenario was like. Warren, you started this mission with 2 members of your team, full of body and mind. And by the end of it, you rattled, fought off several aggressive attempts to retake your position, only to find out that two of your teammates are effectively done, out, whatever the case might be. Where, how does that settle in your mind?
Hmm.
These are things obviously that happened outside of your ken. You found out about them well after the fact. That
Yeah,
Pike
I
shot
wasn't
your medic.
upstairs.
Yeah.
I
That
wasn't upstairs, so I didn't have any chance to understand what exactly had happened, nor did I have any understanding of the mind control because all the effect of mind control happened upstairs rather than downstairs. Luckily, I believe if either of us were affected by this affliction, we would have lost downstairs and it would have been a catastrophe for anyone upstairs as they would have been pincered.
indeed. When you say that it was a good thing that nothing had happened down there, what if Watts's condition was inspired or in part caused by this mental affliction device?
Uh, as far as the read-in was concerned, his symptoms seemed very different than the aggression that was reported as how this affliction affects people.
Curious.
Which is out of character very funny because Wescott was not reacting aggressively in
No,
hers.
I was thinking about how I was going to phrase that, but you're right. Like in the mission briefing, it was mostly violent aggression, and but I can't tell you all of this just yet. But what Westcott went through was scripted, so
Mm-hmm.
um, I think after a moment, Dr. Jaleel, after making a handful of more notes on her pad, maybe leaning back into her chair and thinking for a moment, she looks first at Westcott. She says, "Do you feel as though this team is still the team? Not just a team, but the team that it was? Short, of course, Winston and Watts being removed."
Yeah, Westcott has been staring at like the middle spot at the table up until this point since she was last talking,
Mm-hmm.
and she just looks at her and just says, "This is my team."
Okay. Warren, I would like to ask you the I would like to ask you the same question. Do you feel as though this is still the team, your team? You're muted.
For at least 3/5 of the team
Indeed.
of manpower.
60%.
60. That's all you need.
Staff Sergeant Pike.
Um,
Oh, I'm sorry. Please continue.
no, the serious answer is yes, but we are a little short numbered at this moment.
Well, the Corps is good about replacing bodies. Replacing people, well,
Hmm.
that takes time. Staff Sergeant Pike, I would like to ask you the same question. Is this still your team? The team? There's been, and I say this because there's arguably trust issues. You killed a member of your team, albeit it wasn't you. Memory being what it is, physical reactions being what they are. It was you, but it wasn't you.
From a legal and after action report sense, my hand on rifle, pull trigger, shot both of them.
Yes.
As far as how I consider it, the queen shot them. I was
Yes.
not in control. I have been taught lessons on accepting the things that I can't control for a very long time. And they started our anti-interrogation and counter-torture training at 10. So I'm very well
Horrible.
acquainted.
But please continue.
I'm very well acquainted with the idea of not feeling guilt or shame for things that you don't choose. I understand that on two sides of this coin, there's a lot of preparation that I have that they don't. I mean, normies live regular lives and then join the Corps. They bring their life lessons from their previous lives in to bring new perspectives and skills. Mine is, I have a level of preparedness for this kind of mission that they didn't have. And including the brothers we've lost, I already had a fondness for normies, but these four have performed well above any of the expectations that I had for the tolerance of things that are expected of people like me. But they've risen and continue to fight through. I mean, I just shot Wescott, and Wescott still had the presence of mind to try to prevent another casualty and perform buddy care and seal my suit.
Commendable.
Warren was overwhelmed by enemy force and maintained a faith in the rest of the team and fought to hold the line regardless. I mean, I think most of the others of my kind would have expected Warren to just kill himself and flee the situation, but he didn't.
Dark.
Out of character, I need to be clear. Out of character, I am laughing my ass off right now because we actually did that role for Warren. For those that did not know or did not catch what we were talking about, Warren had such stress that Luke decided to play it that I'm going to roll dice. I forget what exactly you rolled, but you rolled the dice and you said either I'm going to kill the character or he's going to keep fighting. And he won.
It was 2 dice on an empathy roll.
Yeah.
And it was just, okay, if I get 1 success, he just gets back up and he does it. And those odds are not good, by the way.
No, I mean, you're literally asking to roll a 6 on 2d6. So, well, not a 7 or better, basically.
Yeah.
And it can easily go 50-50 on that. Or worse.
The situations and the missions that we have faced the content has been weird, has been unusual, has been new to me. But the stress of the unknown, the tempo, the strange missions, the manning level that we're at are all things that I am accustomed to. I should be expected to continue to perform well in these scenarios. I think in most cases, most normal Marines would end up in your office earlier than all of us have this time. And for some of them looking to be able to cycle back out to recover. And they've continued fighting. I have been impressed.
Sure. I do wonder.
And they are still mine. They are my Marines.
She notes. And then you could hear, you don't know what the word is, but you can hear very clearly she's underlining something several times.
I don't have a trust issue. I don't think that I still explicitly trust the two of them to perform their functions.
Do you trust yourself to keep from shooting one of your teammates again?
I trust that when I have the power to not shoot my teammates, I will continue to not shoot my teammates.
What a non-answer that was.
Well, Doctor.
That was not the doctor that said that. I want to be clear about that. That was me saying that because I remember AP going, wow, what a non-answer. And another non-answer.
When an alien creature decides to invade your brain and force you to do things until you can regain control, that's not my fault.
No.
I mean, there's 2 ways for an alien to invade your brain, and neither of them are good.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After a moment of adding to her notes, she says,
I like that, he's decided that it is now his time, and he's just going to turn and ignore her for a second and look to the other two.
Sure.
If
she's just going to keep taking notes at this point. I think there's a point where she actually has, a look on her face of, okay, good. Now they start to talk amongst themselves. That's what I really wanted.
If either of you feel like you cannot trust me as your leader, just tell me now, and I will work with her and Colonel Arnold to get you somewhere where you feel like you can trust the people who are behind you and beside you.
What do Wescott
I give him
say to that?
I give him the bro hand.
The man shake.
The man shake.
The Predator
Yeah.
man shake.
Okay, that actually is hilarious because I was debating. It's like I could fist bump, but it makes more sense to also get up and do bro handshake / hug thing.
The bro hug.
The
Okay,
double.
the fact that she is literally like barely chest tight on Pike makes it more funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
How tall is Wescott again? 5'1"?
5'1" ish, yeah.
All right.
Pike is like 7 feet tall.
Like a
Yeah,
6'6".
and
Yeah.
Okay, but that's still more than 1.5 feet taller than her, which literally puts her at like
Yeah, that's about chest
Heckline.
height, give or
So
take.
what's funny though, what's funny though is every time you or Westcott refer to Pike's height, he becomes more Paul Bunyan. Like his height keeps going up in her mind.
All he needs now is a flannel and an axe.
no, it's his personality. It just keeps going. See, there you go.
I gotta
I have my
now I
axe,
gotta give him
actually.
No, he didn't want to hang out with me though.
That's fine. But it's the point of picking them up, petting them, and then putting them back down.
Yeah.
It trains them to behave.
I've seen 6'6". 6'6" is no joke.
No, I imagine not.
No.
Yeah,
it seems like the trust is still here. And just so that both of you know, there's a difference between trust and like. I would not be surprised if either of you spend some time being pretty pissed that that happened, or pissed at me because it happened. But as long as we have trust, I will trust that you will protect me, and I will continue to protect you.
Westcott gives him the chest bump. Like, okay, now it's not so much chest bump as she is at the height where she just goes tap. like just gently. She's not like wailing on him or anything. She also kind of glares at the lady because she knows she's watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's
bro
watching.
moment.
Keep in mind,
she gives her the "don't fuck with my people" look. They're
yeah,
fine.
she's definitely like.
Okay,
she wouldn't.
Westcott.
She wouldn't have said this outright, but she probably presents in such a way that it's not that she's trying to tear the team apart, send you off to wherever. She's actually kind of like on your side, but she has to go through this, and she has to make a legit, no bullshit assessment because it's her job, and she is reporting directly to probably the most senior general in the entire Corps, if not this part of space. So, like, she sees your cold, steely look of "don't fuck with my people," and she just smiles, and it's not an intimidating smile. It's a natural, heartfelt, "I got you, girl" kind of smile.
Girl code is in some ways a hell of a lot more vicious than bro code.
Sure. I want to be clear because I don't know girl code, but I do
know
average
girl code is a lot more emotional assassination than average bro code, as far as I can tell.
But that's because the function of each is different.
Yeah.
The function of bro code is to make sure everyone's chill. The function of girl code is the legalized terms of warfare between women.
That's absolutely a fairly accurate statement. Lastly, as she's watching you guys, and I imagine after a moment or two, you finally,
he has a seat.
Yeah, to sit back down. She looks at Wescott and she says, "Corporal Wescott, how do you feel?"
You could really use some R&R about right now. I really am missing that swimming pool and some Mai Tais.
Lance Corporal Watt.
She just laughs and goes.
That was my bad, not her. She would not have fucked that up. Lance Corporal Warren. Could you imagine if she had? After all of that?
She's like, let me just sow a little disharmony here real quick.
Right? Lance Corporal Warren, how do you feel?
Surprisingly good. After post mission, you just try to exist for a little bit and then go into hypersleep and you go back in as soon as possible, I guess. But some rest and relaxation is probably going to be a good thing for us, especially because of our fallen comrades.
Indeed. Staff Sergeant Pike, how do you feel?
Same as when I came in.
I have nothing else for you. I have a report to put together. I will be recommending to the general that you guys remain as a team and you remain on mission. At, of course, whatever the general decides to do with you. That decision will be hers, but my recommendation is to continue onward. Thank you for stopping in. Thank you for our talks. And I wish you truly best of luck with both your missions and your personal mental journeys. He was just on stream a moment ago because he's been an asshole for the last hour.
Oh, tell the kid to take the poor kitty back to his room because the kitty is clearly jonesing.
Yeah, the kitty
Jonesing.
misses you. So take him with you.
Come here, kitty.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Hashin says, what will it take to incorporate some E4 Mafia equivalent or more knife hand next episode? I just need to prep it and remember to prep that in there. There's your knife hand. Okay. Yeah, so that's all we have for her. At this point, Pike, you would know that, well, all three of you would know that you have from now, which is roughly noonish. I imagine you've been there for a few hours. So you have from now until 1200 hours the following day, roughly 24 hours, in order to catch your flight back up to the Tambatam. You have reservations at that hotel casino resort thing. You do not have access to the wild and crazy side. You do have rooms in the hotel. If you recall the one downtime, it was all on resort action. You guys have access to the hotel portion of that, which does include, of course, its own swimming pool. Just because I didn't want you guys to throw sad faces at me for not having a goddamn pool.
Yeah. So, I think the next thing that's about to happen is very carefully going back to the room and taking off the highly starched uniforms and switching back into normal clothes.
There you go.
No, all three of us jump into the pool with the starch uniforms just to turn it dry.
Yeah, we'd fuck up those pool filters.
I'm sure they've handled worse than starch, my friend.
Ooh,
It's a hotel
that's some
pool.
implications.
Yeah.
That's some implications right there.
Yeah. What do you want to do? I mean, by the time you guys get situated in the hotel room, it's probably going on like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the latest. You've got 20-ish, 22 hours.
I look at the other two and go, food?
Yeah.
Warren's like, fuck yes, food.
We go hunting the lovely inn resort restaurant that will bring you various steaks the size of your face.
Sure. I don't remember if I named it before, but let's...
It doesn't matter. It's glorified room service.
Yeah. I mean, do you want it brought up to the room because you're hoping that 8 p.m. comes around so you can watch La Cosa Nostra 3?
No, we're going to go
Oh.
enjoy the lovely little, staring at the lovely little bartender lady who makes us a couple mixed drinks or something. Come on now.
Oh.
Okay.
I mean, I am
It's
missing
a
my
resort.
battle buddy
They have
who
to
would've
have like
watched
one
that
cute
with me.
waitress.
I will tell you, out of
Best
character.
believe, being future space 80s, we are totally sitting at a table, collectively ogling the waitress in the most
Collectively.
disrespectful 80s way.
And even Wescott. Wescott is either elbowing the shit out of you guys and trying to get you to stop, or she's the worst one.
I'm rating them on an appropriate scale based on their outfit and their level of appropriate makeup and their hairstyles.
Oh,
So she's
you're
way
that
more
one.
in depth whether than they're hot or not.
You're
She will
judging them.
compare them.
We're over here like ranking the waitresses in order of like hitability, and she's over here with like a fucking scoring card.
Yes, because I can tell which of them spent 1 hour putting their hair together and which of them spent 10 minutes.
Oh, man.
And I appreciate effort. I mean, so do you guys after we spent the last couple hours shining just shoes.
Yeah.
My drink almost went down the wrong hole there, so bear with me for a second here.
We got him good.
I think for Pike, like grabbing lunch and then like while we're there, like trying to encourage, telling, funny stories about Winston and Watts.
Mhm.
So we can sort of like remember the good times with the two of them, the funny shit they did and, the cool stuff. And then at some point when we like leave from that, he's not going back to his room. He's just going to like meander around sort of aimlessly.
Hashin
Like
says, will Wescott give the winner their scorecard?
Westcott doesn't
Will Lauren be
particularly.
drinking?
Oh, okay. Wait. Are you saying that I should be writing on the back of the napkin her scorecard rather than my phone number? Is that what you're asking, Hashin?
Honestly curious, he says.
Oh no, she like legit will comment and compliment their hair.
Okay.
Like she will literally just write on the back of the receipt the compliment for the waitress because she clearly did well because they pay them lots of money here to look pretty.
Yeah, I would imagine. I also feel like while you guys are there talking about Winston and Watts, at a couple of different points, because it's coming on TV tonight, and this is like it's obviously a movie that was released in theaters and now it's being shown on broadcast, so it's going to get a lot of airtime as far as advertisements for it. But you recall, of course, one or two downtime sessions ago, the one big La Cosa Nostra back to back while sitting in Westcott's room. And I had this thought earlier today. I was like, we haven't touched on La Cosa Nostra at all. And especially with the passing of Winston, the removal of Watts, how does that... I definitely got to hit him with the next best thing to a season premiere of the next movie on TV during the downtime, just to see, like, how many times do we raise a cup for Winston, who didn't get the chance to see this conclusion to this wonderful trilogy, and all that sorts of stuff,
Yeah.
So
I like to think. Tell me if this doesn't fit. I like to think that Winston is one of those people when he's watching a movie, he has to comment on a bunch of shit during the
I
movie.
think we established that
he
at least
does.
one of them, Winston
Yeah.
or Warren, I don't remember, but one of them definitely was talking about everything in the movie. To the
So
point where
yeah,
everybody else
and-
is like, shut the fuck up, I'm trying to watch.
So we make it a drinking game. Every time something happens in the movie where we think there's no way Winston wouldn't have shut the fuck up, we take a shot.
yeah. So Westcott is going around and acquiring appropriate drinking materials. She politely asks Warren to go acquire a couple boxes of whatever it was of food that Kane had last time that he fed her.
I think it was like
yeah.
a bunch of like breakfast buffet or something, wasn't it?
Yes.
They were like
It was just a lot of
big
breakfast
ass
buffet.
omelets.
Yeah.
Mashed
Yes.
browns and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
Some hashy
She
boys.
specifically remembers, so she asks Warren to get that in particular
Okay.
Okay.
and
I
several
will
large
distract myself
containers to
with that.
shove. And
At some point, Pike, you are separated from the others. Not by like, you're not getting black bag. Maybe you're out grabbing another bottle of drinks or something. And this is like everybody else is either chilling in the rooms or at the pool or whatever, and you're out doing whatever it is that Pike gets after.
They need a ladder to black bag Pike.
They probably would.
yeah, that
I
ain't
don't know
gonna
why that
happen
was
anytime
way
soon.
funnier in my head, but whatever.
No, I'm picturing. I'm definitely picturing one dude
Stools.
chasing after him with the ladder, the other one with a. They're both wearing masks, but one of them's got the black sandbag, just trying to catch up to him because he's got these 6 feet tall, 6'6", long ass legs, stride. They just can't keep up, and they can't get the right angle. Every time he stops, he
They
turns.
push a table up. They push a table up at a corner at an intersection, and they're standing on the table waiting.
Yeah. Mike, at some point, probably before the movie, you are approached by a man who appears to be rather familiar. He's wearing regular old jeans, probably a white dress-up shirt that he's got tucked into his pants, The sleeves are rolled up to the forearm. It's got a ball cap on. It's kind of low. The camera never gets a very good, clean shot of his face. But he has around his neck a lanyard, and on that lanyard is a white plastic piece of a badge. Not let me rephrase that. It's a plastic badge, like an ID card or something, but it is strictly white except for a small portion in the middle, which looks like something we would recognize as a QR code.
It just it looks very similar to the guy that
This is that guy.
that Pike. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think Pike just like waves very friendly and says, "Hey, Liam, how are you doing?"
Did I give you his name? Did he have a name?
This is but so he changed his name partway through the conversation. So now Pike is running a gag of constantly changing his name.
Perfect. Because I was thinking to myself, like, I don't remember his name. Did I ever give him an? I have him literally in my notes as Badge Man. So I'm like, I don't remember. And I was like, fuck it. I'm not giving him a name. Like, you will never know his actual name.
Yeah, Pike picked up on that. And now he's just gonna play with it. He's like, "Hey, Liam, how you doing?"
Yeah. So he says, hey, why don't you got a minute? I was wondering if I could maybe run a couple of ideas by you. And he's speaking very casually because you were still out in public.
I have a very sneaking suspicion that we ran into each other at a very opportune time for exactly that. So why not?
I can't tell if that's Pike or if that's Cade being a smart ass right now.
It's Pike. It's Pike. It's like Pike
Are you sure?
Pike has grown up around this kind of person. So
yeah, so you guys he motions down the road a little bit from the hotel that you guys are at, and there's a small, like, not a small, but picture something like a Subway sandwich shop.
Mhm.
But it's busy. Or not busy, but like a few people, but you could definitely have a more or less quiet, mostly private conversation in there.
Sit at a table in the back corner and nobody will be around us type deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's obvious that this guy has some statecraft. Or what's the word I'm looking for here?
Fieldcraft.
Fieldcraft, yeah, thank you. So yeah, he motions inside, leads you to a table in the back. And he says, so that station was pretty shitty, huh? Had some really bad music?
I was expecting it to go worse. I'm glad it went about as well as it did.
In the margin of bad to worse, there's not much left below where you were.
There also really wasn't a whole lot above it, let's be real.
I mean, it could have ended. Okay, I think we're splitting hairs at this point.
Pike is really good at fucking with people by doing that exactly.
Yeah. I will point out, good on you for checkmate. Although it's not the same when you take out the queen, but whatever. He's obviously trying to speak something in code here from time to time.
Yeah. I think I can fairly honestly say that might actually be the scariest thing I've done so far in my life. That's honestly a little distressing in and of itself.
I wonder if that station was sanctioned by somebody other than, let's just say, the boys in brown.
Yeah.
And your team was sent there to clip a loose thread. Still think you're on the winning team?
Not that I'm expecting that now is probably the time, but if I don't die and if we continue to speak, will there ever be a point at which I have more to go on than the vagaries?
If you thought this world had solid answers, you've not been paying attention.
There's some solid answers in the world.
There's a lot of nebulous crap out there, let's be honest.
Sure. So let me ask then, aside from, if we get into nebulous and weird. Um, you're trying to recruit me, right?
He smirks and stands up, and he goes over to the drink dispenser, grabs a cup that I think you're only supposed to get from the counter, but regardless, grabs a cup. Then he grabs the second one. And he puts water in one of them, and he fills the other one with, whatever the aliens' version of Mountain Dew is, and brings it back over and sits the water in. Sits down, sips on his drink. Recruiting is such an interesting word. Have you ever considered possibly what are those things that stick up in the middle of the road that keep you from going out of your lane? Yeah, I don't know either.
Cones?
No. The
Bollards?
ones
Oh,
I've
you mean the
specifically-
plastic fans
Yes.
that are at the top
yes.
of
They're
the
like
little fan
they're
items?
like this thick, but they're like 3 or 4 feet tall, and they're
Yeah,
kind
they
of like
sit on top of the cement berms in the middle to help keep drivers from being distracted by oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
But when the lanes are really close together in the middle.
yeah. So yeah, he says recruiting is kind of a strong word.
Okay. How about redirecting? Does that seem
That's
or
closer
more
to the
appropriate?
that's closer to the bullseye.
Okay. Considering that you're here and you're still here, I'm going to make an assumption that you belong here in some regard or another.
He does that thing, when you're wearing like your ID badge around your neck and maybe it gets kind of flopped around or like it gets twisted, right? He
Mhm.
does that thing where he very pointedly takes it and straightens it all back out again, like it lays it flat on his chest. Doesn't say anything when he does that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Pike's statement's kind of rhetorical at this point.
Yes, but his statement was definitely answering your rhetorical statement.
Yeah.
It's safe to say, yeah, no, dumbass, I belong here. I work here.
Yeah. So I have been putting a lot of thought into things.
Oh, have you
Uh,
now?
yeah. I mean, obviously, it started with the question of, do I find a way to turn in some random guy who's trying to ask me weird questions and trying to figure out what to go from there?
You had thought about turning me in or reporting me?
Well, I had to decide whether or not this was some sort of corrupting psyop or not.
That's okay. That makes a lot of sense and probably what you should have done. It wouldn't have obviously gone far, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. But some of the things that you said bothered me enough to consider it and not just do it on automatic.
Bothered you in what way?
Everything up to this point has made sense in my 3-foot world.
Okay.
The last mission did not. And I can't.
Did he freeze?
No!
Shit. I really thought for a moment that he had paused to like figure out what word was best to use. And then I realized he was not moving at all. And I'm like, okay, let's give him a moment for him to come
This
back.
is time for a dramatic
Something, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go get a
pause.
refill of my glass of water.
No, by all means. By all means. Let's give him a moment to come back.
Moment.
Oh, there he goes. He just dropped.
Oh,
It's okay. That means we're getting closer to him coming back.
that's a good point.
Hopefully, I don't have to play around with the zoom windows too much. Ah, there he is. Coming back.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. So the last thing I got was fuck. My short-term memory sucks. Everything makes sense in my 3-foot world except something. That was about the
Okay.
point where you froze.
everything
That's about the time you walk away.
everything made sense within my 3-foot world about everything that's been going on and what I've been doing, except the last mission. I have not been able to find my easy out to explain some of the things that are kind of weird. Um, Now, I feel like that's something you wanted to have happen. I also feel like that's my thought. It's not yours. But
He smirks, and it would be a shit-eating grin if it weren't a smirk. It's that kind of a smirk. A shit-eating smirk, I guess. I don't know. Kind of like, actually, he doesn't even. Yeah, he just smirks at you, and he's like, "We've had a breakthrough. Then we have achieved the capacity for independent thought. Congratulations, you have advanced from caveman."
yeah, just remember, caveman's good at swinging big stick.
Got to know where to swing it first. Listen,
Yeah.
let's not sit on analogies and vague whatever these are, because the game master can't think of the fucking word now. He says, "Do you remember I had said something about tools in a previous conversation
Right.
and pawns?"
Which I've learned is a chess piece.
Yes. Good, you're keeping up. On this board are multiple pawns. And on this board, for each team, there's a king and a queen. And the whole point of this game is to remove your opponent's king from play before you lose your own king. The queen is the most powerful piece on the board. It can move in any direction, in any space, or any number of spaces. So the queen becomes the most powerful. The king is the most important. You have a bunch of pawns to do the bidding of either, all to prevent the other team from succeeding. We need you to stop being a pawn.
Well, I might not be the brightest guy, but I'm under no
Your range of motion is limited.
But I also get that if I do what you wish that I would be doing right now, I would still be a chess piece, just yours or whoever you work for is.
That's a surprisingly independent thought in and of itself.
I mean, you're never going to tell me everything anyways, so I'm only ever going to get that far.
He taps the piece of plastic around his neck and says, "I can't tell you everything. We don't have enough time."
Well, we both know I've worked with your type before. I'm not surprised. I'm not going to push it.
I think, Mr. Pike, Staff Sergeant Pike, what you should take away from this is your newfound level of clarity and the little bit of influence you may or may not have within your sphere of operations. And remember that there are 2 queens on the board. And they both have all their pawns. Sometimes the best play is to remove a pawn. Sometimes the best play is to sacrifice a pawn. And he taps his cup on the table twice. And he stands up. And in for a brief second, he places a hand on your shoulder and says, "I'll pay for that."
Look, I'll just make part of this much easier for you. If I'm going to be a playing piece, I need to know what color I am. If I don't know what color, then I'm going to pick the color that I know to be loyal to.
He stops as he's obviously trying to leave, and he stops. He does the dramatic head over the shoulder look back at you, and he says, "That's the funny thing. It's all just varying shades of gray."
Well,
And
go tell whoever it is you work for that.
all I'm hearing right now is you're like, "And you can go fuck yourself."
I said, go tell whoever it is that you work for that if I'm going to change this loyal path that I'm on, then I need to know that the other path is more loyal. I'm sure you're not going to tell me who, but just go take that to them.
He sticks a hand in his pocket as if to retrieve something. Pulls a. It looks like a flip phone, but in the process, a small piece of paper falls out, and he doesn't seem to notice as he walks out the front door.
Okay. I'll wait for him to leave and then I'll pick up the paper because that seems like that kind of guy's move to do. So I'll pick it up and look at it.
I mean, I can only be so obvious before it's too obvious or not obvious enough. You
Hey,
know what I mean?
this guy's hardest assignment has been talking to Pike in his entire career.
It's probably, I imagine it with his level of
Poor
like,
man.
with his level of like access and clearance and the things he knows and the things he's done, it's like, fuck, I gotta go talk to that brain dead caveman again.
Hey, at least he's not trying to talk to Wescott, because Wescott would have a very different response.
Oh, I'm sure.
Or like Warren at this point.
Oh, he would have to give you guys like, he would have to look at how best to approach, and he's figured that what appears to work is to breadcrumb Pike. You got to give him little pieces, otherwise he won't follow.
Well, and Wescott's response would be different on whether she had a good day or a bad day that day.
Here's what's
Yeah.
funny though, like this guy is being so cerebral about dealing with a moron that if he had read Pike's psych profile, it'd be so easy to be like, okay, well this person is the more gooder good person. Be loyal to this one, and to be like, okay,
All right.
it'd be so.
Oh my god.
Yeah, to be like, because he's yeah. As much as
And,
he's
like,
an idiot,
Warren
he's
is-
also grown up in a nuanced environment. So
Warren is one wits higher and no amount of intelligence more about military like hierarchy. So it would just be a little bit hilarious.
so what's on this
He-
paper?
I'm actually trying to find it, but my computer is trying to eat.
Yeah,
the
so I'm pretty
processor.
sure if he wanted a real a real intellectual conversation, he'd have to talk to Wescott. And
Yep.
Wescott don't like playing those games when she's out for herself and her own team.
Yeah, no,
Wescott would just
he's definitely trying to
Yeah.
get, like, at the risk of putting out too much from what I, the GM, am attempting to do. He is absolutely attempting to do some form of recruiting on Pike and you guys. Where is?
Mike knows. That's why he was like, "Hey, just tell your boss. I need to know like who I'd be working
Yeah,
for, so
yeah,
I know
yeah.
that my loyalty is well placed."
I'm trying to find a specific name. Sorry. I wasn't 100% sure I would get to this particular aspect, so give me just a moment. There's the frontier. The letters on the piece of paper look as
Oh
if
my
they
God.
look as if they were written a few days ago, and the paper has been balled up in his pocket for a while. But the letters are capital S, E C capital D E F. And I know you know what that means.
Yeah, so does Pike.
Well, yeah. Your characters would too, but you don't know about this piece of paper yet.
Yeah, the short
I already
answer
forgot.
is if this is real, this person outranks General Von. Yeah, Pike sees this paper and
His jaw slams off the floor, bounces 3 feet up, slams down on the floor one more time.
no, there's the the sound of creaking stone as his eyebrows can't get any closer as he looks at this.
As he tries to piece all of the pieces together, and he just can't piece it no more.
Well, no, so he's come to one of two conclusions. Either there's the possibility that this guy is right, in which case all the cascading implications off of that are horrific.
Mm-hmm. Or that
and
he's wrong, and those cascading things are also horrific.
Well, no, his life would be easier if this guy was lying and that this is wrong.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because in
but-
your mind that would be status quo. Like everything you know is correct. If what he's telling you is accurate, and that means everything else that you know is not. I think I summarized that somewhat accurately.
So he looks at it. It's seared into his memory. He rolls it back up into a ball, drops it into his drink, gives it a minute, and then drinks it.
Wescott, you have a moment where it's just you. Pike has gone off to wherever. He said he was going to go do something, but he's been gone a little bit longer than you thought he would be for whatever it was he said he was doing. Warren is out ostensibly grabbing food and or drinks, and probably thinking about grabbing more drinks on top of the drinks he was going to get. There's a knock at your... I'm assuming you are in your hotel room?
Yes.
Okay. There is a knock on the door. You know
it doesn't
exactly.
sound like either of my people.
Yeah, you know
so
exactly who this is. Come on. You've had like 3
I open the door
downtimes.
and I'm like, is it not a hallucination this time?
Well,
oh boy, you should ask him
yeah,
that.
you should ask him that.
Oh,
Are you real this time?
Yeah.
there
Standing
are
in
things
front of
that
your door, or as you open the door, standing there is Tom Stevenson, dressed somewhat dressed up-ish. So, jeans, some nice shoes. They look like they've got a little bit of a shine to them, so they're not just, regular street shoes or what have you. He's got a button-up shirt, but it's not like he's got like the top 2 or 3 buttons undone. The collar is nicely folded down. And he says, God, I almost called you Olivia, and I had to remember your name was Octavia. Sorry. Octavia, I would be honored if you would have dinner with me this evening in about 30 minutes or so.
That is some chutzpahs. Just opens the door
what
and
time
is like,
of day?
hey.
Well, she opened the door for him. I'm assuming
Okay,
at
so
this...
what time of day is it? Because if it's time for dinner, if she could get dinner in between now and movie watching, she totally would.
Oh yeah, let's
But
say it's
she
like...
promised movie watching, so she can't go back on that.
Yeah, so it's probably like 4 or 5, and the show won't start until 8.
She's like,
Her at
sure,
a restaurant
give me 5
alone.
minutes.
May I come in?
Sure.
Yeah.
She
So-
literally lets him in, closes the door, walks over to her bag, opens it up, scoops out the civilian clothes, walks to the bathroom, closes the door, does the 2-minute shower, comes back out, gets dressed, and she walks back out with her hair still vaguely damp.
Okay.
Efficient.
That's the name of the game, man. Have you not seen the required shower ridiculousness that we've gone through on that ship every damn time?
Good point.
She probably has very short hair, otherwise this would never
Yeah,
work.
I imagine. Yeah. So he does confess once you're, dressed enough to be out of the bathroom and whatnot, and you're still finishing up getting ready or whatever. It's like, I must confess, it's just dinner at the restaurant here, but it is a nice restaurant from what I've heard. I am looking. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if you were gonna say yes.
She just looks back at him as she's finishing putting her stuff together, like running the last to the hairdryer.
Yeah.
Goes, there's so many things I'm not allowed to say, but I'm just gonna say I'm really glad we're on leave. It's been a week.
I have no idea what you have gone through, but I can only imagine it's.
She is excited to have a break, and she is perfectly happy to go have somebody chill and drink and sit and eat dinner with. Because frankly, she probably does not want to sit and have another staring at Pike's face meal. She
Yeah.
she might trust Pike. Pike ain't her favoriteest person.
Oh, Pike assumes that both of you are probably really pissed with him, and he's okay with it.
Yeah. So he.
Wescott yo-yos between him being her rival and her buddy constantly.
I feel like there's a lot of that, by the way.
And a third of the time, he's both at the same time.
Yep.
Pike is Warren's buddy, and Winston is his rival but deceased.
Yeah, so he will more or less entertain himself while waiting for you to finish up, which I imagine is only a couple of minutes, and then you guys will head on down to the main restaurant. While you're having dinner, it's got a stupid smile on his face. It's not like a big fat smile,
sorry.
but
I just
like
saw Hashin's comment, and I'm like, dude, the fuck?
I don't get the Jaden, I'm not going to destroy your worldview at all part, but
Oh, that's
Some people
the
hit on Pike and chloroform.
oh, well, yeah, that's that was during the whole trying to get the ladder up the Blackback Pike part.
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That makes more sense, but at this point conversation, just now seeing it, I'm like,
Oh yeah, no, that definitely came up while we were talking about blackbagging Pike. It was the part that I was confused about, which came up about the same time, was the whole Jaden, I'm not going to destroy your worldview. I feel like I'm missing the reference on that one, but
My only question is, do we think that Pike could make the stamina roll to just be pissed about the chloroform instead of knocked out?
well, chloroform doesn't work very well.
yeah, I don't know what the alien rules. I know it's like cinematically, chloroform is wonderful at knocking people out. The truth is, it's not. Not
It's
even
a good
close.
10 minutes.
Yeah, it takes a
At
long
least.
time.
No one has the
Chris.
strength to chloroform Pike whatsoever.
No,
Sounds
we
like the
just
worst
assume
option
they
ever.
just.
Physically grapple him from behind with a. He's just gonna grab you by the scruff of your neck and body slam you, and then lick the chloroform napkin
I
as
mean,
he
your
stomps
only
you into the ground.
Your
He
only
might as well
option is
just
to
salt
sneak
his
up.
fries with chloroform. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
I like the idea that somebody tries to bear hug him from behind and he just giggles and goes, "Trust fall." It just
Yes.
Oh man.
So, my dear
Mhm.
poor NPC friend here,
Yeah.
he is somehow very excited that we're going to dinner.
He's happy. He's almost giddy. He seems to have it mostly under control, but you could tell this is kind of a big deal for him. And during dinner, maybe while you're waiting for your main course to show up, he says, Octavia, and he takes your hand gently in his, and he says, I have enjoyed the few moments that we have had together over the last several months. Wish we could, frankly, have more, but I understand. Between your enlistment and my contract work, it's hit or miss. But I would like to officially consider this a romantic relationship. I'm hoping that you would be in agreement with that. I will tell you right now, as a man, I am horrible at such a proposition, and I need you to just imagine he's a little bit more romantic than I am.
So,
keep in mind that most of us are.
Yeah.
Omar,
Uh-huh.
if it bugs you that much, I could introduce you to books, but I am also I enjoy reading the trashy romances that are completely not lifelike, so...
Okay, so let's compromise and say that you're okay with him propositioning like this?
So she just says, like, she looks at him, takes his hand, and goes, that is very agreeable. As I'm sure you're aware that active duty Marines spend a lot of time in cryosleep.
Yeah. He
You'll
kind
not
of
hear from me
chuckles.
very often.
Well,
We spend a lot of time in cryosleep, so it might be quite a while between chances I get chances to message you. But yeah.
He says, "Well, I am." Luke.
He's probably giddy over there, vibrating in excitement.
He says something to the effect of, "I have, my military contract, or excuse me, my consulting contracts have had similar obstacles placed on me. I did have a brief military service as well. I mentioned that previously, I'm pretty sure. So I totally understand that this will be, for all intents and purposes, a astronomically long distance relationship.
But we will get occasional chances for
And I
dinners, at least, at the very...
won't deny the fact that I've sat in various places maybe I shouldn't have, looking for your ship's name and an estimated date of return so that I can plan these sorts of things. Not to sound like a stalker, and at this point, he gets that like nervous look, like, oh, maybe I just gave myself away as a stalker or something. But he's like,
She pats on him and is like, I'm sure your cybersecurity officer knows exactly what you're doing and is probably rooting for you.
Oh.
he takes a drink of his
She
water.
giggles a little.
Yeah.
I know what to say.
He chuckles. He definitely laughs a little bit, but he grabs his water because it's like, wow, his mouth is like suddenly dry, and he takes a drink of his water. He's like, I certainly hope so, because I may or may not have pushed a few regulations to make this happen. I did see your comment about PowerPoint. I just didn't get a chance to respond.
Wescott pulls out the appropriate forms to have a romantic interaction with someone else who's in the military-industrial complex.
No, we're not doing paperwork right now.
That's why I was cracking up, because that's literally the next paperwork.
Yeah. But he does
actually,
say
Wescott does, because she was hoping to see him, and it's hilarious. She is always prepared. I pull it out of my pocket because it's fucking hilarious.
He takes Wescott's hand and will kiss it, and then as he's sitting back up and smiling, happy, oh, our food has arrived.
Yay!
And we will wrap it there. Perhaps a moment or two early, but if we start another scene, it may go a little bit over. So, let us review what we have earned for this evening, as I apparently have made Rodance particularly happy with her character getting something of a romance going.
Dude, she has had so much shit. She deserves to be a little bit happy, okay?
You know what this means, though, right? You GM campaigns, too. Okay, that was rude of me. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's be clear. She still has a broken nose from the last mission because it hasn't been enough days yet for that to heal.
She's got raccoon eyes.
Yes. She's got like another 3 days of healing left.
Also, you wanted to wrap at 38. Makes me think that Warren's gonna have a shit time trying to get back to the hotel.
No.
No, we get Marine Country 3. It's going to be amazing.
Well, no, this is Marine Country 4. No, for Warren, my notes had something. So the notes I had written were geared around alcoholism, and I missed, I don't know what happened. Maybe we talked about it after I wrote that stuff. I don't remember the exact process, but you had decided going with the caffeine nicotine
to subside the need for the drinking.
Yeah, so it doesn't really work as well, but I want to, I guess, review my notes for your interactions for this downtime, and then
we can do that after
something a little bit different.
Yeah, we can review this quickly before we wrap up tonight.
Well, so what I have, hold on, because now I gotta reopen that particular section. gonna kill him with official forms. It's gonna be amazing. Wow.
Hmm.
So what I had was basically that every so often you had to have a drink, or you needed to make a. No, I'm sorry.
So
Every so
his-
often you needed to roll wits -2, or you'd find yourself at a bar or some other venue that has alcohol.
Well,
his specific
he
thing
ruled
is
substance
drug abuse,
abuse,
not alcohol.
not alcoholism.
Correct. That's why I wanted. So this is what my notes had, which was alcoholism for tonight. But at some point we decided, for whatever reason, however, and I totally missed it when I prepped this, that that's actually not the case. And so doing all this and forcing your character to have a cigarette and coffee doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
We're
But
telling you
think-
why the change happened.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
all.
yeah. Gotcha.
I feel sorry for him because he's gonna come back to my hotel room with a note saying, "Went to a date. I'll be back for the movie. Put the food in the fridge." Dot. Slap.
And then I'm just like, where's Pike?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Pike is like back briefing the CIA or something. I don't. Being
And-
recruited
and
by
Warren
the DSA. I don't know.
And Warren's just like eating hash browns. Like,
I'm picturing those McDonald's hash browns. Listen, I fucking love these hash
They're
browns,
good.
right? From
oh, I
McDonald's.
know, right?
But you know what I fucking hate as much as I love them? So, like, love, hate. That gap is double, right? The fact that you can only get half of the damn hash brown out without ruining the damn paper thing that they come in which case you then extricating the hash brown ruin the hash brown.
Yeah, there's a trick to
Fucking
it.
hate that. What is the trick?
Yeah. No, I know. That's what I mean. Like, there's a
Dude.
trick to it, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, I'm
You
the
know,
same
you
way.
can. There's two ways. If it's not stuck, you just pull the little
They're
thing out and
always
then hold
stuck.
it again.
Well, the
And
problem
when they
is by
are
the
stuck, you
so-
stick your finger down the side like an envelope, break the paper, and peel it from one side and eat it.
That doesn't. I hear you.
Come on
Listen,
now.
Air 5, I got you. But here's the problem. By the
By
time
the
I get
time
the
you eat
damn
'em,
one, by the time I get
yeah.
one, so the reason why I get them is every now and again, my boss.
I just imagine it's like, I have 5, great idea. Problem is, I'm not gonna fucking do it.
No, it's not that. It's not that. What ends up happening is I don't normally go out and get McDonald's for breakfast ever.
Mm-hmm.
I get McDonald's because my boss on Wednesday mornings we have our weekly safety meeting at work. So the boss will sometimes bring in McDonald's. Sometimes it's donuts, sometimes it's whatever. And so by the time I show up for work and get these, they're already stuck to the paper.
Yep.
If they're not already stuck to the paper, they will be by the time I actually get around to trying to eat the damn thing. Because as soon as I'm done with that safety meeting, all I want to do is get my truck loaded in and out. So I love these fucking hash browns.
I mean, you
I know.
could just pull
Listen.
the classic Marine trick and eat the paper.
I end up eating a lot of paper myself.
There's enough
I'm not a
grease in
Marine,
that
so that
paper.
never occurred to me.
There's
It's
enough
basically
there's-
edible.
Yeah, there's enough grease in the paper. It's like eating the bottom of the Five Guys bag. It's basically food at that point.
Probably not fucking wrong. That's the sad
Catch in the mouth and kill
Speaking
it.
of
one bite.
speaking of safety meetings, we had the active shooter again, just like early on in this week.
The training or an
the-
actual active shooter?
The training.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, we do this like twice a year, and I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, so this is dumb. And I brought it up during our team building exercise, which was basically just guessing names of countries, I guess, from emojis.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, so does anyone have anything to bring up? I'm like, active shooter. Most of us work from home. Like, if someone's coming into my home to shoot me, he's right there. Like I'm not getting away from that. And they're like, well, what would you do in case of an active shooter? I'm like, well, I've got, and I pull out a sword, and I'm like, I got this, and they laugh, and I'm like, I started like pulling out swords because they were asking me what the swords that I have at my desk. And I ended up having 9 swords at my desk. And I'm like, there's a problem here.
Okay, at least that's the opposite. I work in a building attached to a refrigerated warehouse with a ammonia
Okay.
system.
Oh.
They have not once in the entire year I've worked there discussed how you're supposed to evacuate and how far away you have to go so you don't die.
In case of the ammonia leak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think there's just basically like, well, if it happens, we're just all dead.
I remember I have a friend. He was Army and then Air Force.
Ooh.
And while he was Air Force, they're like, okay, you're here, you're downrange, you're working on the base, you hear gunshots on the base. What do you do? And it's like a safety monitor or whatever going through and trying to make sure everybody knows like where their bunkers are and stuff. And he just looks at the guy cold and says, can I see him? Like, sure, he's shooting at you. What do you do? And he's like, I shoot him. And he was like, wait, he's looking at his clipboard. There's no check mark for I shoot back. He's like, wait, but you're a fobbit. Do you even know how to use your right? Like, the answer is supposed to be like, go in your building, close the door, call security, like, so that the QRF can show up, like, like the gate guards can deal with it or whatever. And he's
The
like,
gate cards.
and he's like, I have a rifle. We all have rifles. And he's like, yeah, but a lot of you don't. Like, do you know how to use it? And he was like, yes, I do. Why is this confusing to you?
I will tell you, in the Army, my deployment experiences were even on the FOB, if you were not on active patrols or like when I was stationed in or worked in the training room or whatever you want to call it, like no matter what your job was, whether you would be going out on patrols daily or not, you had your weapon. You also had a 30-round magazine on you. So if you did get in that situation, shooting back was the intended recommended course of action. You would not just run and hide and call security. So there's a part of me that's dying internally right now, just knowing that there are military members posted downrange and that's their course of action is to retreat and call for help.
But they're interviewing.
Call for security.
Yeah,
Yeah,
call for security.
They're expecting. I mean, he's talking to people who sit in like the comm set hut and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he's expecting a bunch of people who are like, I didn't really want to be whatever. He's got his preconceived notions about the air boys.
Yeah,
And he was just like, oh, can I see him? I shoot him.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
I don't think I've gotten this answer yet today. I don't know what to do with this. How do I grade this?
Well, speaking of no-brainer answers, did you participate in today's gaming session? If so, then yes, you get a point of experience.
Hey,
What a
does
wonderful
that mean the
transition
queen
that is.
got that point of experience that one day?
Who? The queen? The dead queen?
Hmm.
Am I missing something here?
Hmm.
Okay, my sense of humor is slightly warped and twisted today, apparently.
Okay, because
I like it.
I definitely missed what you were putting down. Sorry.
Well,
So were you present today?
Are you talking about did the queen get a point of roleplay because she took over one of the characters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
She
did
got
play
a character
PC.
point. She got.
Yeah, she played PC for a little bit.
Did you risk or sacrifice something to further your personal agenda? I don't think we had any of that today. We did not have anybody risking their lives for their buddies. The closest we might have had were affirmations of "This is my team, fuck off."
Yeah, nah, not this time around.
All right.
no risk of life or career.
Yeah. Did you challenge or stand up to your rivals? No Eye of the Tiger cards today
Pike doesn't have a rival right now.
because Pike shot
I
him.
ha-
I'm sorry.
I have to say that Warren is standing above Winston.
Well, yeah, because Winston's 6 feet under. I'm
Exactly.
sorry. God damn. Y'all got me snarky.
We have to get you ready for tomorrow, man.
Yes, I definitely need some willpower boosting for that. Did you make a panic roll? We also did not have any of those tonight.
No, freakishly.
Wow.
And that was only because I made my roll and then you didn't make us make any manipulation checks chalking to the lady.
Well, nobody really tried to
Nobody
lie or
lied.
anything. Did you overcome a dangerous event? We didn't have any dangers. What was it to fucking betray each other's trust?
Now,
Pike already did that 2 weeks ago.
Not that I'm arguing to get the XP,
Uh-huh.
because I'm not. But Pike definitely saw us going to speak to the Shrink
Mhm.
as a dangerous event for the team. Because he went in.
I
went into
will
it thinking,
concur that Pike probably thought that was going to be a major obstacle to overcome.
yeah, that her job was to be the next fight for the team, and that if they lost,
they would lose.
Yeah, I could definitely see Pike
Everything's a
thinking
fight.
of it that way. Definitely, but also not enough to warrant.
But like, I'm
experience
not
points.
arguing for the
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Did you make a significant discovery or revelation, Pike? Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, Pike's got problems.
Pike's also going to have to disseminate that information at some point.
Does he though?
Well, perhaps should. But
Nah.
I leave that to
Pike
Pike,
will take it with him to his death.
which is part of the reason why I spelled it out instead of saying anything more about it, because I didn't know what Pike's possibility of saying it to the characters, because the players wouldn't know those letters necessarily. Characters probably would, but that doesn't make any sense until it's explained in character.
Yeah. Pike doesn't want to say anything to anybody else until he decides what kind
Until you
of
speak
trade.
to your girlfriend, Heart of Reason.
Yeah, he needs to decide what kind of trader he needs to be first.
Did you perform an extraordinary action of some kind? I don't think we had any extraordinary actions.
You know, I feel like it's extraordinary that he kept going on and on with all of those stupid comparisons and all of his sarcasm, and Pike didn't hit him.
Again, I can see why Pike might think that, but it's not enough to be an experience point. Did you like my breakdown of how to play chess?
Yeah, it's like I was like, it's really like Pike is not going to understand. He doesn't know the rules of chess. He just recently learned he doesn't. He knows that there's pawns and there's a knight, and you lose if your king dies, and that's about all he knows about chess. And that there's two colors.
Yeah, and
he thought he was
that's why
really
I kept
clever.
it simple as fuck. It was like the king is the most important, the queen is the most powerful.
He
I'm
doesn't know how the
tracking,
queen moves. He has no idea.
I'm tracking Hashin. I have seen some cutscenes, but I just wasn't able to make the connection of where you were going with it. The last question, of course, is did you earn any money? So the answer is yes. So it sounds like you guys only got 2 experience points, but I will give you a bonus third for the 3 of you because it was a good RP session. I feel like you should at least get something out of it outside of the absolute basic bare minimum. Feedback and outros. We'll start with Kane. Feedback, outro, comments. What you got for us?
I don't know how Pike is going to handle this yet. I know exactly what this is, but Pike doesn't know what to believe right now.
Yeah, I got, you know what? Being several missions, your worldview, status quo set, and then suddenly everything you know is being questioned, and then it comes from SecDef. That's a fucking sledgehammer.
So the 2 things that he's struggling with right now is first, now that the mission is over,
Mm-hmm.
and he's allowing himself to reflect. That was a station of UA construction. It was a Wei-Yu satellite, right?
Yeah.
So it was a UA aligned construction that was seized by UPP.
It doesn't
make sense to him that the UPP would have had enough time there to have retooled the station for that work and had it look the way that it did.
Yeah.
So he's already just being on the station and seeing what he saw, it already didn't make sense that even to him, Science Point to the UA was part of building this program that was fucking people up.
Yeah,
and then
yeah, like there was UPP lettering on the walls and all the computers were UPP. Like it just seemed weird.
Yeah, but if they were rebuilding the station to do this, it would have looked like it was some haphazard non-dry dock work, like panels being pulled out all over the place, cables being strung all over to recable things, signs of industrial work to build a pen for that thing that wouldn't have been done as part of the original construction. There would have been work.
So they used
Well, I know, but Pike doesn't know that they
it was like a reactor fuel tank or something like that. Yeah, the coolant tank. That's it. They used one of the coolant tanks. So instead of putting coolant in it, they drained it, threw the alien in there, sealed it up, But then the alien broke out because for a brief moment, I believe it was power was shut off or something like that. It wasn't just the signal being turned off because the signal had nothing to do with the alien other than the signal being received from the alien then being amplified and broadcast out.
So, but Pike didn't know that they stuck it in like a tank and
Yeah,
repurposed
yeah,
it.
yeah.
He thinks that there was a pen built on the station to contain it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So he's already at this point of like, the UA is doing stuff that I'm supposed to be protecting the UA from. And then dropping the SecDef thing, he already doesn't like Spook Bro.
Spook Bro. I liked it better when he was Badge Man, but I don't know. Spook Bro might have to stick around.
I mean, he already doesn't like Spook Bro, and he would be really happy if that guy was like a psyop lying sack of shit, so he could just personally rip his head off and then drag the body to Intel. But because he dropped the name SecDef, he has to try to find a way to validate that.
Yeah.
Because it's the SecDef outranks
Everybody.
General Vaughn.
Yeah.
General Vaughn's the second in command of the Corps. So there is a general between the two of them. But like,
But SecDef outranks even that motherfucker.
right. So he can't just dismiss Spook Bro. He has to find a way to verify if that's true. Because if it's true, then the SecDef commands his loyalty. Like, he's loyal to the Corps, and the Corps belongs to the SecDef.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't just dismiss it. He has to try to find a way to validate it, and he's too stupid to know how to do that right now. But now he's concerned that if he continues to do stuff, there is the unfortunate possibility that he could be being a traitor and not know that he's a traitor. And it's so he's all sorts of fucked up about this.
Fucking deep ass shit, which I know you as the player, know at least some of this main story or main overarching narrative, whatever you want to call it, for the Frontier War as it's presented in CMOM. I know you haven't read all of the stuff in depth, but I know you had at least a general idea of where all of this is going, because I believe you had said something to the effect of, I am intentionally making this decision to go this direction.
I mean, I made this character specifically so we would, do a thing.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah.
But no, Pike is super fucked up right now.
Yeah, good. He may or may not have brought that on himself. You may or may not have brought that on him. I don't know. No, now I'm fucking with you too much. I'm sorry. Spook Bro is going to be around for a little while. He is absolutely serving a purpose for the narrative that, not so much that I want, but the narrative that,
That the SecDef wants.
Yeah, I mean, that's his role. He's obviously doing something in the behalf or on the behalf of the Secretary of Defense. So, Luke, feedback, outro comments. What do you got for us, my friend?
Not too much. Therapy reminds me of therapy. And
I want to point out, I tried very hard not to get too deep in the therapy because I didn't want to redredge any sort of therapeutic or therapy related problems anybody else may have experienced. Just for the record.
Yeah, I've been there where a person is just like, I say something and then they're just writing comments for 5 minutes and I'm looking at me and then writing more comments. And I'm like, what am I here for?
Yeah.
I mean, what notes could you be taking? You're looking at my face, and all my face says is "go fuck yourself." Like, what notes do you need to take right now?
Passive aggressive AF.
No, that's pretty much it. I think it was a pretty good session to get things like going in the recap. Like, what do you call that? Yeah, it's like a recap episode.
It wasn't meant necessarily as a recap. It was, my intent truly was to explore the emotional impact side of all the last mission. Because to be totally, like, I mean, you guys have had some fucked up mission shit previously, but this one was like exponential, right? Like, you've got an alien mind literally taking over player characters and killing another player character. On top, like, and then for Warren and Watts, it was just nonstop slugging it out for 3 sessions straight. That takes a toll on a motherfucker. So yeah, there was some recap-ishness to it, but the intent was more to play it up on the therapy side of things, because how do people deal with that kind of shit? Two people enter the station. One of them eventually basically fucks off. And one person is very suicidal for a few minutes and then manages to become some sort of a hero because he chooses one direction instead of another. After hours, what seems like hours and hours of fighting, even though really it was probably 20 minutes or whatever, if even that
Maybe.
much, and then find out on top of all that bullshit you had to deal with, oh, by the way, one of our teammates is dead, and that's the fucker that shot him, but it's not really his fault. Like, how do you put all that shit together and rectify it in your head?
Well, I mean, we could have pied the corners a little bit better, me and Watts. But yeah, the whole thing is pretty much a fucked up situation.
You guys had a hard. Those two characters had the hardest time because of where people were positioned before you showed up. To some extent, decisions I made, but I wanted to really challenge you guys. Like, I know I've joked about it, and maybe to a certain point, I am actively trying to kill you, but not really. Especially now that I got
You're
one.
actively making it difficult for our survival. That's
yeah. I'm challenging the fuck
those
out
are the
of
words.
you. But also I feel like the characters we're getting deep into these characters. I mean, fuck, Pike, Wescott, Winston for a little while there. Like, they were some very deep, well drawn out characters as far as any sort of ideologies or personalities and whatnot. So I'm definitely enjoying that. But anyway, I'm taking away from whatever you might have had to say.
No, I think the last thing I would have wanted said is Winston would have not made it through this therapy session without making a ton of manipulation rolls.
I wonder how that session would have gone if Winston was still alive. Never mind the fact that if Winston was still alive, we may not have had to have that situation or that session. But like, what would he have said?
That's a good point.
Well, I mean, because Winston did straight up murder somebody,
like
on the station.
People.
Yeah, on the station. Didn't he shoot somebody and called it justified because flimsy?
She made a face, I think, was his exact reasoning.
She showed signs of aggression.
Yeah, after she was already detained.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not dealing with that. She's not tied up. Whatever.
Meanwhile, Pike over here enabling him, like, good shoot to me. Wait, he taught after he killed those two people in the little hotel thing next to the spaceport.
Yeah,
like, he taught Winston that Pike would let him get away with murder. Literally.
Oh yeah, absolutely he did. He was like,
yeah,
you should murder more.
Yeah, and he was gonna, but
yeah, but Pike fucked that up.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's a bit of irony to this. I think it's, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's a good storyline.
Absolutely, I think so too. I agree. Rodance, feedback, outro, comments. First she has to say thank you for giving my character romantic interest. Sorry. I think you're muted, by the way.
Yeah. You're muted.
Yeah, something's... Can't tell if it's the headset or the
face of concentration.
Yeah.
Did the mute girl just shush us?
Yeah. I was wondering about that too for a second there.
Yeah, it's like, we're not talking over you. You aren't talking.
No, still nothing, eh?
No, nothing. And she looks like she doesn't know what the problem is. Did your headset battery die, or are you plugged in?
We're gonna need you to push your Comtech roll. Can you hear us?
That's a good point.
I actually really don't like using that one because it actually, I think, is I'm finally in the process of actually to buy a new headset because I'm talking to you through the mic on my camera right now.
Which sounds terrible.
Great.
It does sound horrible.
Horrible, I'm quite sure.
It's so tinny.
At least you're intelligible.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's definitely I'm waiting to see how long it takes us to realize that Pike gets all of his emotional advice from Eckhart.
He gets all
And then
the
the
how to be
manipulation
a
begins.
how to be a real human.
Yeah, and it's really just he cares what she thinks, so he's trying to become more person to get closer to her.
All the while, Warren is trying to become more like Pike to
You're
be a
muted
hero.
again.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm gonna have to restart my computer to get it to behave. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to inflict temporary romance on Omar.
All I've got to say is, you know what happens when the GM introduces a romanceable character? Is that eventually the romanceable character disappears.
Yeah, when the campaign is over, when all the characters disappear.
No.
Right.
You know, if it goes well, she will run away with this poor guy and retire, along with Pike and Eckhart and and Warren and whoever he finds.
I imagine
And I'm
Wescott.
pretty sure our new character, one of them, is just going to retire with his flamethrower.
Oh, Mr. Oh God, Mr. Sorority Sister.
Yeah, I really want to watch you attempt to pronounce this poor guy's name because he is POC Zachariah Volzinski.
Bullshitsky. Got it.
Volzinski. I find it easiest to say the name if I just keep my teeth pressed to each other.
Probably. Bullshitsky.
Just imagining all of the romance scenes where he's hallucinating.
Rubbing his guns.
Where I really like the idea that he is actually unhinged enough that Omar has to role play his flamethrower for just him.
Jesus Christ. No.
He
I don't like what this is insinuating. I don't know if I like this. I need an adult.
I guess my new character is a muscle mommy, so I just realized that right now.
Oh my God,
Did
a
you
muscle
make a
mommy. I
female
never thought
character?
I'd hear those words
I
from
made
my
a
own
female
stream.
character.
That's great.
Yeah. Now we get to experience the role play of one woman entering another's orbit.
Mm.
They're going to start marking territory.
Jesus Christ. Rodance, do you have anything else?
Everybody's face and owned you. So
Tell me I'm wrong.
she doesn't. Wescott doesn't have to mark her territory. She already has the rank to prove it.
See? Right there. It's already starting and these other characters don't even hear you.
All right, I'm done. Let's get out of here. That is it for us here tonight, my friends. Thank you for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you appreciate and enjoyed this crazy show that this has been. If you have enjoyed the show, please consider liking, subscribing, and all the other buttons that are there on the Twitch and on the YouTubes. And yes, I know I said YouTubes. I did it intentionally. The really cool thing is if you look in the description for this video on YouTube or ! Discord in the live stream chat, you will get the link to our Discord server and you can come hang out with us and talk smack and tell us all the things you're screwing up or all the things that you love about our show. We would really appreciate that.
Yeah, come join us and make fun of me.
Or me.
Everybody else does.
Nobody makes fun of you on my channel. Come on.
Not on your channel, but
listen, what we do on AP's channel is
listen,
what happens on AP's channel stays on AP's channel.
No, it
Suddenly...
doesn't. I ended up here.
Make some fan art of our characters, especially
that would be awesome.
Muscle mommy.
That'd be cool.
That would be awesome.
Neat.
Yeah.
That would be kind of weird.
A little bit, but it'd be fun to watch. I like seeing that kind of stuff.
We got to get a fan art of that really awkward. Can we just become official now? Dinner date?
That would be amazing.
With her raccoon eyes and the
oh my God. Could you imagine?
Yes.
Maybe this is just for me right now, but fan art of La Cosa Nostra, all three of them.
Oh God,
that would be epic. Get like 3 different like movie posters made.
So much tomato sauce.
Is she gonna invite her new
tomato
boyfriend to the viewing of La Cosa Nostra 3 with the rest of her team?
Oh yeah,
Oh, that'd be neat.
he'd definitely love to hang out for that. He wouldn't want
Hmm.
he wouldn't want you to feel awkward though. You know, by his being there while you guys are having this team moment. She's like, no, fuck that. Come on. Get your ass over here. I got a spot just for you.
I mean, I know how Pike is going to react, so I'm not all that concerned because it's just about to become a drinking contest.
Yeah, Pike. I was just gonna say, if you had not mentioned drinking contest, my next thought would have been like, oh wait, hold on, respond in character. How does your character feel about this movie? Are you excited that this new movie's coming out?
He was until he met with Spook Bro. Now he's
Now he's just
trying-
fucked up in the head.
now he's just fantasizing about grabbing a small car and flipping it over.
Aww.
Pike is so mad right now.
Oh yeah,
He's
there's
not
one more
mad.
thing.
He's just fucked up. He
Omar.
doesn't know what to do. Yeah.
Some of us know what sec def means.
I did not mean to imply that nobody meant it. Also,
But
I
when
did
you
say.
kept saying it, you're like,
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know if
"It's
you
a
guys
really
did know.
common shortening of that title for that position in government, man.
Yeah. No, I didn't know.
It's in all standard news articles.
I didn't want to give away too much about
I
the
don't know.
overall
I don't know
story.
what that
either.
is.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'll be able to surprise at least one then.
I mean, hey,
He's
the
not
Canadian
American.
guy
That
doesn't.
kind of makes sense. I don't think they
Yeah.
use the same abbreviation there.
No, they usually don't. They're
The
usually
Canadian
slightly
guy doesn't know an American political position. Makes sense.
different.
We have a ton of them.
Shocker.
so-
All right, let's get out of here. That is it for us tonight. Stay safe out there, my friends. This world truly is a crazy dark world. So make sure you're doing what you got to do to take care of you and yours. As for me and mine, we're going to get out of here. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.